I'm going to go ahead and get started with just my little intro. My name is Mary Overbey. I am with Kansas City SCORE. I am actually located down in Springfield, Missouri, and work with the Springfield, Missouri chapter as well. Very, very happy to work with Kansas City, though. They have been so amazing to work with. And my goodness, I learned so much with these webinars. It has helped me as a business owner so much this year. I love it. All right. A little bit about just logistics. I'm sure everybody knows by now, but your video is off. We're in the webinar format. You are muted, so if you have things going on in the background, it's not going to distract anyone but you. It won't distract Julie or I. It won't distract the other participants. Because of that, though, because we cannot hear you, please, please, please use that chat box and talk to us. We love the chat box and communicating with everybody that's out there. I'm not going to be able to provide any technical support. If you're having issues, we have found that if you log off, log back on, that seems to be the best way to sort of fix things and get back into the smooth transition. We will be providing a recording of this webinar as well. So afterwards, if something happens and you're not able to get a good stream, just know that you will be able to get a recording of this typically within a week or so, just depending on how busy Karen is on her end around the holiday season. I know no one's busy around the holidays. All right, super important. That last bullet there is the kansascity.score.org website. If you go there, you will see all the workshops that they are doing. They should have their 2023 schedule up as well, at least for the first quarter. If you see a webinar that you like, you can actually sign up for it, even if you're not able to attend in person, because you will be able to get that recording. So please don't just sign up for ones that you can attend. Sign up for any of them that you think would be beneficial for you as a business owner. If you're not familiar with SCORE, SCORE is a nonprofit organization that is ran by volunteers. Julie is here volunteering her extremely valuable time today, and we appreciate that so much. All of our presenters are volunteering. Yes, no, that goes to you for sure, as well as all of our mentors and our staff people. So that means our mentoring is being provided for free. These business trainings are volunteer. And then we have lots of free resources. If you go to that kansascity.score.org, you can access the resource library. There are templates, there are videos, there's blogs, there's all kinds of information on all the different topics. SCORE is really just here to make sure that you as a business owner, in whatever stage you're in, you don't have to do it alone. You have people that can help you. And that is what we do. And I love it, love it, love it. So on that note, let's get started with this amazing, if you have not seen Miss Julie Cortes present before, you are in for a treat, because this is fun, educational, and oh my goodness, it speaks to my heart for sure. So Julie, if you want to share, I'll let you do a better intro for yourself, but you got lots of people that chimed in on who they were and where they're at. Oh, we've got a good variety.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Really good. And that kind of takes away my first question here. No, that's good. That's good. Do you have anything else, Mary, before I take
honey, I'm going to go video silent and mute, and then we'll do just make sure and holler at me when you're ready to do those polls, and we'll get them going.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here today. My first question was going to be, let's do a show of hands. Now, of course, we're on Zoom. I can't see you. And even if you were to hit that little raise hand thing, I can't see that either. But I was going to ask how many people currently run their own business and how many people want to start their own business, because we're in a really unique time here coming out of the pandemic, where even prior to the pandemic, like self-employment was on the rise. We were hitting this huge upward trajectory where the experts were predicting that nearly 50% of the United States workforce was going to be self-employed in some capacity, full-time, part-time, what have you, by the year 2027. And then, of course, as we all know, the pandemic hit, things shut down, people changed, lifestyles changed, and now more and more people are realizing the benefits of self-employment. But the problem is that we may know our craft, our skill, we may be really good at selling a product, but if we don't know how to run a business, that's where we tend to get into trouble, right? So herein lies the problem. Let me get my slides to work here. All right, here's my question. Did you take business classes? Feel free to go ahead and answer in the chat, and I will try to monitor that as much as possible. I don't know about you, but I didn't take business classes. I went to school, I got a degree and really specialized focus. My degree was in journalism with an emphasis in advertising. Yep, right? Nope. And I never dreamt I would ever need business classes. At the time, I didn't think I would be self-employed. And plus they weren't required for my major. And that was a huge, huge mistake. Looking back, like we definitely should have taken at least some sort of intro to business class. So, but here we are. And even if you did take a business class, like, do you remember it? Like, how long has it been? And is the stuff that you learned even still applicable all these years later? So we have issues, right? We have problems. We have a great idea or a great product or a great service that we want to sell. And what do we do, right? If you didn't take business classes or don't know how to run a business today. So it's kind of one of those things where you really, come on, slide. There you go. You really don't know what you don't know. You may have all of the skills in the world, the talent. You may know your craft really, really, really well. But if you don't know how to run a business, it's just not gonna work out. I see it all the time. Now, my background is in advertising, and I have lots of friends in the ad agency world. And more often than not, I see them leaving the agency world, whether by choice or by default, and get out on their own thinking, yeah, I'm totally going to do this. I'm really good. I've won all these awards. I'm super talented, but they don't know squat about business. And of course, I wish them well. But at the same point in time, I've seen it enough that I know what's coming. And lo and behold, whether it's months or a couple of years later, they end up hanging up their hat and going back to work somewhere full time. And that's a problem, right? So this is going to be a really good educational seminar today. We are going to have some fun. But the biggest thing that we are going to address is that huge void there that we're missing in that lack of education. So today, that all ends. Okay, today that all ends. Who am I? I am Julie Cortes, copywriter by day, freelance rockstar by night. I have run my own freelance copywriting business for almost 25 years now. In February, it'll be 25 years. What that means, for those of you who aren't familiar with what a copywriter is essentially I write advertising and marketing materials for ad agencies, design studios, large corporations, small businesses, nonprofits, you name it. And I write, whether it's website copy or emails, or even like video scripts, brochures, press releases. If it's in the advertising marketing realm, I've probably had my hands on it at some point in time. And about 5 years into my career, I realized that we had this void. I realized that there was this void in education and community and even respect for the self-employed. And looking back, apparently I've made it my life's personal mission to rectify that. In 2003, I founded an organization called the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City. Essentially what this is everything that we need, right? It's continuing education, mentorship, support, networking, social and promotional opportunities for those who are self-employed, specifically in advertising and marketing. And that concept has gone really, really well. Throughout the years, I've been invited in to speak at local colleges, and it finally dawned on me, Cortes, this stuff needs to be taught in schools. And so long story short, I ended up creating my own class called Freelancing 101. And I teach now as an adjunct professor at the Kansas City Art Institute. Been there about 6 or 7 years now. Absolutely love it. And I'm teaching both commercial artists and fine artists as well. And it's been as much of an educational experience for me as it has been for them, I'm sure. I'm quite sure. But then a funny thing happens when you are a professor of a class like that. Like all of a sudden, my professional peers wanted to come take my class, and they're like, "Well, Julie, I just kind of want to come sit in on your class every so often." And I'm like, "Well, there's no room, and you got to enroll and pay and go back to school, right?" And not many people want to do that at this stage in the game. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, Cortes, another light bulb moment. Why don't you open up a coaching business, a coaching arm to your business to offer those same lessons to your professional peers? So I've been doing that for a few years now. And then the speaking opportunities obviously have just come freely. And I've been speaking on stages virtually and live, both locally, regionally, nationally, as well as internationally now. And it's just been such a joy. I will tell you that I am absolutely nowhere where I thought I would be, but I am 110% everywhere where I'm supposed to be. So enough about me. Let's talk about solopreneurship. Today, as promised, what we're going to talk about is motivational tips. We're going to talk about policies and procedures. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty, talking about pricing estimates and invoices. And we're going to go over some promotional tricks as well. Now, good for you. I come from a promotional background, so you're going to get like a good deep dive on that today. And personally, that's my wheelhouse. So we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get started. What is in a name? If I say solopreneur to you, you may be thinking of another name. I've already brought up the term freelance or freelancer. That's the term I use in my world. But there are probably 101 different names for what a solopreneur is, right? Some people call themselves a consultant. Some people are a contractor. Some people are a business owner. Some of my favorites are a creative mercenary, or I don't know, indie worker, remote worker. For the sake of this conversation, I just want us all to get on the same page, and it is what it is. Okay, if I say solopreneur, I mean creative or independent. If I say freelancer, I mean solopreneur. Okay, for the sake of today, let's just all agree it is what it is, and we are all solopreneurs here today. If you have another term that I haven't heard of that's not on this list, go ahead and put it in the chat for me. I'd love to add it to my list for future presentations. But essentially, we all have similar challenges and opportunities. And being self-employed also comes with similar pros and cons. The biggest pro, of course, being freedom, right? You get to work for yourself, work on what you want, where you want, with whom you want, wearing what you want, doing what you want, like all of the things. You get to make all of the choices. You are the boss. And I'm not going to lie, it's pretty damn amazing. So let's do a little deeper dive on this. If you all will entice me here in the chat, let's do a little brainstorming session. If I were to ask you, what are the pros of self-employment? What might you say? Audience participation time. Get out the chat, start typing. What are the pros of being self-employed? Flexible schedule, yes. Number one. Control, absolutely. Absolutely. Control basically everything, right? You can even set your own hours, right? What else? What else? Define your worth. Ooh, I love that. I love that. Don't have to hire staff. Independence, yes, very good. So many things. Creative, flexible schedule, innovative. Yes, I love it. I love it. Learning new things. Don't have to hire smokers. I'm curious what you do. Do not have to be under a poor leader. Yes, very good. Absolutely. So essentially, we all realize there are so many pros to being your own boss. And again, it's pretty damn amazing. You are your own boss. You do get to set your own schedule. You do get to choose your own projects, what you sell, whether it's a product or a service. You get to set your own policies and procedures. We're going to talk about that big time later on. And essentially, you get to determine your own success. You have unlimited earning potential, right? However, with every pro comes a con. All right, so tell me again, audience participation, what are some of the cons of being self-employed? Let's see what you got. what are some of the cons of being self-employed? Easy to be lazy, the unknown. Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? Working all the time. It's all on, I don't know what that is. It's all on is. More hours than a traditional job. Yeah, the investment on us. Thank you. It's all on us. Yeah, absolutely. Never stop working. Oh, isolation is huge. Be a hard employer. These are really good. Really, really good. So obviously with every pro, there is a con, but it's just like any other job, right? You're going to have pros and cons in any job. So to me, it's like, do the pros outweigh the cons? Pay, no more salary. Yes, exactly. No guaranteed paycheck, right? Your income may be like what we call episodic income or feast and famine. Think of it like a roller coaster, right? Sometimes you're doing really, really well and sometimes you're not. So you got to figure out a way to flatten that curve there. No benefits. Surprised I didn't see that in the chat, right? No health insurance, no retirement savings. The isolation factor is huge. It can be lonely. You have to do it all. You do have to not only do your projects, you have to manage your clients, manage your projects, manage those budgets, deadlines, all of the things. And really, quite honestly, you've got to be pretty self-disciplined too. So all of these things come into play. And if you're first getting started, it certainly takes time to build up a client list or a customer base, right? So there are all of these things. What I feel like, though, we understand the pros, we understand the cons, we understand what we're getting into. However, what I feel like some people don't realize is whether you're just getting into it or maybe you're talking to somebody who has no idea about self-employment, is that as a solopreneur, you don't just do your craft. Like, for example, I don't just do copywriting, right? I wear all of the hats in my business, and you would do the same. I call this the O factor, because you are essentially the CEO, CFO, CMO, COO, and any other O you can think of, and people don't realize that. Okay, you are doing more than just your craft. You are running an actual business. It is being the salesperson, the marketer, the secretary, the researcher, the janitor, right? It's all of the things, all of the things. All right, so this is the O factor. Mary, I am ready for the poll, but you've got a question here. Where is SCORE headquarters?
So yeah, I saw that. So it's actually just outside of DC, I believe, in Virginia. And Hughes, if you want me to, I don't know if it's Martin Hughes or Hughes Martin there, but if you want me to actually find out the specific location, I'm more than happy to do that. I've never been asked that question before on a webinar.
I know. I mean, we have one here in Kansas City, but I don't know where the headquarters is.
Yeah, I'll find out. So the question that was where is SCORE headquarters? And we've launched that poll. So if you guys want to go ahead and while I'm explaining sort of how SCORE is set up, fill that out. So Julie has that information. But yeah, SCORE has a headquarters based right outside of Washington, DC. Our funding is allocated through Congress, and then our fiscal agent is the Small Business Administration, or the SBA. And across the nation, we have chapters. Julie mentioned there's one in Kansas City, there's one in Springfield, there's one in St. Louis. There's basically wherever you are in the United States, there is a chapter ran and coordinated by volunteers that is there to assist you in your business venture. And then SCORE headquarters, their role is to be that overarching guidance for all of us. They provide us with the branding, our ethical guidelines, and all of that kind of stuff. So we all know that people like me, we need our ethical guidelines, right? But that's what SCORE does. So yes, I will post in here where SCORE headquarters is. I don't know if it's like an open office to where they probably have mentors working out of there. I don't actually know. I should know that.
You got stumped.
I got stumped. That's okay, because I love to learn new things. Somebody put that in there, always learning. That is one of my favorite things about being an entrepreneur. A solopreneur is I am a lifetime learner. And so I will go learn that, and I will then pass along that information. All right, we've got about half of you who have responded. If anybody else wants to respond, you better do it quick. so that we can share this and move along. Oh, we got a couple more. You can pick as many of these as you want. And give everybody just another 15 seconds.
If you select other, go ahead and put in the chat what else you're struggling with.
Yeah. Countdown is on 2, 1, go. All right. Let's share the results so you can see what everybody else is feeling too. There you go, Julie.
Thank you. All right. I want to go out on my own, but not sure how. That one is huge. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. You know what? I've been at this for 25 years and I still feel that way. I'm not gonna lie. I feel stuck and or am ready to hang up my hat, not finishing things and need accountability, need help determining what to charge. We will talk about that later on. And then the other. All right, let's see what you said. Fear of financial risk. Yes, huge. Want to grow. Okay. Very good. Thank you all for filling that out. That helps give me a good idea of where we are today. So I want to start with the motivation aspect because quite honestly, I feel like mindset is everything and it's huge in whether or not, like it's going to make or break your business. All right. So to first begin with that, I want to get into a concept called what's your why? I don't know if y'all have ever heard of this. We're going to dig in here. What is your why? It is a term, why was coined by a TEDx author and speaker by the name of Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. I'm going to put his name in the chat. You want to look him up on YouTube. He has some amazing presentations on this whole concept about finding your why. And he's written this book. It's called Find Your Why. But essentially what it is, it's a guide for discovering your purpose. All right. So he uses this framework called the Golden Circle. And essentially what it is it gives you a really good visual blueprint of what it is that you do, how you do it, and then why you do it. Like, what is your purpose? Okay. So we're going to take a minute here and again, audience participation. And here is Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. I wanted you to get out a pen and paper here real quick, or pencil, what have you, whatever you got nearby, and draw 3 circles. All right. In the middle is the why. Okay. The second one out is how. And the third one out is what. Okay. Draw out that circle. Now take a couple of minutes to start thinking about how you might answer these questions. And I'm going to put these in the chat for you. But you're going to start with what and work your way into why. Okay, so what is the result? What do you do? How is the process? What are the specific actions taken to realize the why? All right, why is the purpose? What's your cause? What do you believe? All right, let me put these in the chat. I'll give you a couple minutes to work on these and then we'll see who wants to share. Okay.
Julie, I want to go back up when on one of the others that people were dealing with, mental health got brought up.
Oh, I missed. Thank you.
Yeah, it came up a little bit late. And then funding as well, finding funding, even as a veteran, you know, the ability to get funding, the mental health aspect. How do we overcome that as solopreneurs? I think those are great points. So I wanted to come back to that. And then another one was consistent sales, that consistency of doing that. So yeah, I wanted to come back on that one real quick because boy, howdy, mental health.
Right. I mean, just in every day, but gosh, you know, with this pandemic too, I feel like it's even more of an important issue. And people are even more and more affected by it. And we absolutely need to study that and offer resources for sure.
Well, and the commenter was actually a veteran as well. And, you know, we work with, I see a lot of veterans that are starting businesses because of PTSD and depression that, you know, from coming back and integrating into society that's completely different than what they've been trained for. And the resources aren't as great. But yeah, he just said that the VA's there, but hard to qualify for. I think that entrepreneurship, we tend to get a lot of people who are not, I call myself unemployable. right? Because I'm a pain in the ass. You know that. I've told you that. Um, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody else is aware that you are not alone if you also are being an entrepreneur because you're a pain in the ass. So
yes, absolutely. In fact, I feel like some of us, that's why we are self-employed, but because we have that attitude, it drives us even more,
exactly.
right? I have found employers are scared of people like us, right? And they don't want to hire us anyway. So I was like, okay, fine, because we're not controllable, and I'm okay with that.
Yep. All right, you're starting to get some stuff in, and I'm going to let you get back on track.
Yes.
Apologize, I just had to bring that up.
No, very good. Thank you. Thank you. All right, if you want to share your why, go ahead and drop it in the chat here. Sherry, what's your recommendation as a woman in a man's field and trying to navigate that business? Reach out to me behind the scenes here. I don't want to take up too much time here, but here, let me drop my email address here in the chat. And we'll talk about some different options there for you. Okay, Melissa, you're what? Is a muralist. How? Learning, mentorship, books, seminars, research, education, et cetera, et cetera. Good. Why? Because this is my God-given talent. I offer a great product and amazing service. I believe I am great at art and a good leader. Fan-freaking-tastic. I love it. Who else wants to share their why? You don't have to do the whole thing, just your why. What is it that drives you to do what you do? Why is it that you want to run your own business? Why is it that you sell your product or your service? It could even be, some people are like, well, I do this for my family. I do this for my kids. My personal why is, why did I get into advertising, was honestly because there's so much bad advertising out there. I grew up loving Super Bowl commercials. I grew up like tearing really good creative ads out of magazines and putting those on my walls instead of the cute boys that we were supposed to do, apparently. And so that was my why. I was like, okay, if we are going to be selling our products and services to consumers, don't we at least owe it to them to entertain them somehow? So that's my why. All right. Anybody else want to share? Hughes, I see a start, but I don't see anything else. Okay. Service to others, defining my self-worth. Good, good. I love the service. Very good. Okay. So your why, here we go, Hughes. Okay. Transform all humanity into a new and higher life form. This is the power. I don't know what that is. Power of Prasad. Your why ought to light a fire underneath you each and every single day. Okay. It ought to be the reason that you get up out of bed every single morning. It's what's going to push you to help you achieve your dreams. So it's really important that we hone in on that, on what it is that your why is. Okay. Like I said, a lot of finding success as a solopreneur has to do with mindset. So we're going to talk about some mindset tips here. All right. My favorite slide. I gotta love it, right? Wake up, kick ass, and repeat. Let's get you in the right mindset from the beginning of the day. Okay. So let's start. You wake up in the morning. If I were to ask you, what's the first thing that I want you to do when you wake up in the morning? What might you answer? And I'll go back and read your other answers here. But if I'm asking you, what do I want you to do first thing in the morning to help put you in the right mindset for the day, what might you say? Audience participation. Meditate. Nice. Work out. Good. Coffee. Yes, for sure. These are all very, very good. Yeah. Pray. Whatever floats your boat. To-do list. Good. Good, good. Anything else? Anything else? So smile and be grateful. Oh, what a great, great attitude. All right. There are some of these things that you listed that you certainly can do before you even get out of bed, right? But the first thing I want you to do when you get out of bed, first thing, it's so easy, but it works, is make your bed. All right? Make your bed. Why? Number one reason, of course, is because you will already have accomplished something today. You can check it off your to-do list. I don't know if anybody writes that out on their to-do list, but you've already got that sense of accomplishment. Number two, if you're the type of person who likes to take naps during the day, that is going to lead you away from doing that, because it tells our mind on a subconscious level that we're done with that part of the day. Okay. Ooh, there's a book about it. Fantastic. Who wrote that? Make Your Bed. Yes, it really puts you in the right mindset, especially now we're coming up on winter. It's going to be dark and gloomy and cold. Like, you might be like, oh, I don't have any work to do today. I just want to crawl back into bed and take a nap. Not going to hurt anybody or anything, but it does. It hurts your business. Okay. So first thing in the morning, get up and make your bed, then go and do any of these other things that you might do in the morning. Drink coffee, work out, pray, meditate, do yoga, whatever it is that you do, whatever your morning routine consists of. Thank you, Jamie. But then go and actually get dressed for the day. So many people are like, I work from home. I'm going to march down the hall with my coffee cup in my jammies and my bunny slippers, and I'm going to go to work. Now, you work from home, so you may, but you absolutely could do that. But I'm going to tell you that sets the scene for the rest of your day. Okay. If you get up, if you get showered, dressed, do your hair, do your makeup, whatever it is that you do in the morning, and act like you have a traditional job and you're going to work, that's going to put you in the right frame of mind and the right mindset for the rest of the day. Okay. One thing to remember is to put on shoes. I was going to say pants, but no shoes. You probably should put on pants too. But put on shoes, because again, it's a mindset thing. Don't put on slippers or flip-flops or whatever's comfy. Put on shoes that you might either wear to an office, wear to meet a client, or even lace up tennis shoes. There's something about those kinds of shoes that really put us in that right mindset. Okay. So the bonus part of this is not only are you in the right mindset for work that day, but gosh, if somebody calls and says, hey, Julie, I've got this hot project. Can you meet with me in half an hour? I can be like, yes, I'm totally ready, or, hey, can you come down to my office, but I'm half an hour away? Yes, I'm totally ready. Or gosh, in today's world, when you can hop on Zoom at a moment's notice, you'll want to be ready, right? So be ready, be prepared for whatever is going to come your way. Okay. So you got up, you made your bed, you got ready for the day, you got dressed for the day. Now, one of the things that I want to implore upon you is to actually set office hours for yourself. All right. They may look different for everybody. They may be different for you every day, depending on what you have going on. But set office hours for yourself. Is it 8 to 5, noon to 6? Is it whatever? Maybe you're doing this part-time, so you do it after work, right? So maybe it's like 7 to 10. Whatever. Thank you for the commentary. Whatever it is that you do, okay, just set office hours for yourself. Again, it's a mindset hack, and you want to make sure that you are in the right mindset. Okay, so let's say that you have your office hours are 9 to 5. Let's say you don't have any paid work to do that day. There's still something to be done, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Okay, you want to make sure you're working somehow, some way, either on your business or in your business, to make sure you get ahead. Working in your business is doing the things that pay the bills that you can charge for. Working on your business is everything else that you can't charge for, right? Maybe it's working on your bookkeeping, or getting ready for tax season, or doing self-promotion, or cold calls, or whatever the case may be. Okay, always something you can be doing. The next thing is to find some sort of dedicated workspace. If you happen to have an extra bedroom that you can transform into an office, that's fantastic. If not, just find somewhere that you can make a dedicated workspace. Is it a dining room table, your kitchen table? Is it a little desk in your kitchen? Is it a corner in the basement? Whatever it is, set up shop, right? Set up your office wherever it is. Make sure you have this dedicated workspace, because again, oftentimes if we work from home, it's so easy to just like take your laptop and go work from the couch, or go work on this comfy chair, or go work from bed. And again, you can, but I'm telling you, almost 25 years experience here, you will be much more productive if you are sitting upright somewhere with an office chair, with a kitchen chair, dining room chair, somewhere where you're sitting upright and you have that dedicated space where, again, it tells your mind it's time to go to work. Okay. All right. Next tip is, once you've got all of that figured out, is to, especially if you work from home, get out of your house or your home at least once a day. At least once a day. Okay. That could be going to the post office, going to the office supply store. Okay. It could be meeting somebody for coffee or for lunch or for happy hour. Get out of the house one time a day, at least one time a day. Go take your dog for a walk around the block, or you go by yourself, whatever the case may be. Get out. That's going to help with that isolation aspect, that loneliness aspect. You want to be interacting with the world, being a productive member of society. And quite honestly, forcing yourself to get out of the house is going to probably force you to make yourself look presentable as well, right? So there, it all kind of ties back together. So being showered, getting dressed, all of the things, right? So all of those things. But remember, at the core of this is to use your why and these mindset tricks to get ahead. All right. Please discuss. IRS investigates home businesses. Don't believe our square footage estimations. I personally never had this issue, but essentially when it comes to taxes, you want to figure out what the square footage is of your home office, right? And you can deduct that percentage of your home by way of whether it's your rent or your mortgage, as well as homeowners insurance or utilities, the percentages of that. And then you can make those deductions when you file your taxes. I've never had a problem where they didn't believe me. I will say, just side note, and this has nothing to do with my presentation, but as a self-employed individual, it's always been my impression and things that I've heard from accountants is that if you get your taxes done by a professional accountant where they can kind of give that stamp seal of approval, you're less likely to get audited by the IRS. So knock on wood. I shouldn't say that too loudly, but I've been going 25 years and have yet to be audited. So heads up on that. Anyway, now that you're motivated, I want to get you trained here, okay? And I recommend a 3-part training system to set yourself up for the best chance of success as being a solopreneur. This 3-part system includes training yourself, training your clients, and training your family and friends. All right, so let's get started. You got to train yourself first, because if you don't train yourself first, you can't train anybody else, right? Right, okay. So this kind of goes back to that original slide. Many people fail because they don't know what they don't know. So you've got to go figure out what it is you don't know and then go learn it. All right. You've got to get educated. There are so many business practices and industry standards, legal and accounting issues, right? SCORE offers, obviously, great webinars, great tips, great resources to help you with all of those things. And that is an amazing and free resource. You've got to set policies and procedures for yourself and for your business. Again, we're going to dive into that deeper later. You've got to set office hours and then keep them. That's the key. You've got to keep your office hours, and that means scheduling around those. Think about it too. Scheduling your day. Think about when you are the most productive. I don't know about you, but I for sure am not a morning person. So I do not want to be taking any important client calls at 8 a.m. I don't want to be giving any presentations at 8 a.m. Like, I'm awake, but it's like the mind doesn't function with the mouth just yet, So honestly, if there's any big project like that, I tend to leave it for the afternoon. And I know my personal body clock, like I am on fire between 3 and 6 o'clock. I don't typically like to work till 6, but I'm just like in such a mood that I just go, and I am on fire. My husband calls it my power hour, but it's really power hours because there's several of them, but I am heads down, and I'm just going. So figure out how your body clock works, figure out when you are the most productive and schedule around that. It's so, so important to be in tune with your body and what that's going to look like for you for your office hours. Okay. So schedule around when you're most productive, and then be sure to work on your business and in your business, even when there's nothing to do. Okay. I mentioned this just a little bit ago, the working on your business part, right? I said taxes. I said, a whole litany of things, self-promotion, cold calls, right? You could clean up your desk. You could clean up your desktop. You could even clean your office, right? You could do a deep clean. You could actually take the feather duster to the blinds and to the ceiling fan and things that you may not do very often. You could redecorate. You could repaint. Anything that's going to help you in the future. Is it going to help you be more motivated? Is it going to help you look more professional? Like, think along those lines. And I will tell you, There is no shortage of things to do. And if you can't think of something to do, come to me. I promise you, I will think of something for you to do, because there's always something that you can be doing, but you have to get in that mindset. My office hours are 9 to 5. I've got to make sure I'm either working on my business or in my business during those hours. And therefore, okay, let's say I don't have a paid project to do today. Guess what? I'm going to be cleaning up my desktop today. Boom, done. Problem solved. All right. So think about all of that. When you're in your business, of course, it's so easy to get distracted, especially if you work from home, right? Think about all of the distractions that are around you, whether it's a spouse or a partner or kids or pets, right? And those are just living things. And think about the other distractions. You may have chores, right? Laundry, cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, errands, what have you, that are like just calling your name. And of course, yes, you work from home, or if you work from home, you have the power to do those things. You have the flexibility to do those things. But again, I'm here to tell you, if you get distracted by one little thing like that, it's going to take you at least 15 minutes to get refocused back into your business. So if you keep your office hours sacred and only work on your business or in your business during those hours, that's going to help get you ahead. Leave the other things, the chores, the errands, what have you, for during your breaks or after hours or before hours if you happen to be a morning person. Okay. So get that in your head. I've got to be focused on my business during those hours for sure. Okay. What about other distractions such as social media? Anyone? It's like, ooh, there's a notification. To me, it's like shiny thing. I got to go look at that right now. I don't know about you, but it's really distracting. So you want to shut those things down if at all possible. Maybe you schedule certain times during the day to look at them. This also goes for texts and emails and phone calls, right? You can turn all of those off or put them on do not disturb. There's nothing that says that you have to respond right away. I think in today's society, we get stuck in this auto respond kind of thing, but you don't have to. All right. Unless it's an emergency, unless it's urgent, there is no need for you to respond to anything right away. Okay. A couple hours is not going to make or break anything. It's not going to hurt anything. So keep that in mind. Other things that might take your focus, your television, right? Netflix or video games or whatever it is that your vice is. There's so many things that can distract you. You have to get in the right mindset and say, I'm going to reward myself with those things later. Not now, but later. Okay, so you train yourself, right, to focus on you, on your business, on your work during your office hours. And that's going to help you too maintain some sort of work-life balance. You know, you tell yourself, I'm working 9 to 5. That means no evenings, no weekends, no holidays. All of those things. You've got to really get into that mindset, because again, if you work for yourself, it's so easy to be like, oh, let me just pull up my laptop and I'll just do this, that, and the other while I'm watching TV in the evening with my family. You can. And if you're behind on something, sure, but I would not make it a regular practice. All right. You really got to have that work-life separation, and that's going to help you maintain your sanity when it comes to solopreneurship. Okay. So you've got yourself trained. Next up is to train your clients or your customers, whatever you call them in your line of work. All right. Number one, remember those office hours that you set and you trained yourself on? Guess what? Now you got to train your clients on those. So when they can contact you, how they can contact you, when can they expect to work from you or to receive work from you? When can they expect that they can set up a meeting with you? All right. This is super important. I've had in the past, I had a client who would try and call me at 10 o'clock at night. He tried to call me at 10 o'clock at night. Well, he can call all he wants. Fortunately, caller ID was already around by then. But I was like, dude, I'm not answering the phone. This is my personal time. Unless it's an emergency. Maybe I messed up on a project or something, or who knows, whatever the case may be. And also, I think too, to be fair, it depends on the relationship I have with the client. If it's somebody who's brand new, who's being a pain in the ass, no, I'm not going to allow that. If it's somebody whom I'm really liked and I've worked with for 10 years, sure, I might answer the phone. It doesn't mean I'm going to work, but I might answer the phone. Thank goodness for caller ID, right? Thank goodness for email. You don't have to respond right away. If somebody can email you at 10 o'clock at night, that's fine, but you don't have to respond till the next morning or till the next day. You just don't. Okay. So you train your clients on your office hours. You also train them on things such as your payment terms, like when your invoices are due. You get to determine things like this. You get to determine, is your invoice due within 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, what have you? That's something you get to decide on and then train them. Some clients, I don't know about your industries here, but mine in the ad world, sometimes they're like, as an ad agency, like they have their clients, right? And they'll say, oh, well, we're not going to pay you, our measly vendor, until we get paid by our client. And I come back, no, that's not the way it works. You're going to pay me when it says my invoice is due. 30 days is standard turnaround time. So the key is to maintain your ground there. You'll have set a policy on this. Again, talk about that later. And you'll put it in writing. And if they don't agree to it, you don't have to work with them. I mean, that's what it is at the end of the day. But sometimes you can come back and just say, no, this is my policy. And if you want to work with me, my invoice is due within 30 days. You get to set the rules. It's your business, as long as they're reasonable. Okay. I would say, do not let clients or customers take advantage of you. For whatever reason. I still haven't figured out why, but some people will try and take advantage of the self-employed, and it's so frustrating. I've become such a freelancer's advocate throughout the years because I've seen it so many times, not only in my own experience, but my friends, in the freelance exchange getting taken advantage of. And I'll tell you an example here. I had a client many, many years ago. It was a construction company, and they had hired myself as a freelance copywriter as well as a freelance designer. And they said, hey, we're presenting to a new prospective client here in a couple of weeks. Hey, Julie, can you help us write our PowerPoint presentation? And designer, can you help us put it together? Yeah, sure, absolutely. And so we sat down, had a meeting, and I was like, okay, here are the things I need from you in order to get started. And remember, that was 2 weeks ahead of time. And they were going to be presenting it, I don't know, like on a Friday morning or something, 2 weeks later. I did not hear from them until the night before. Thursday evening. I remember specifically because I got the notification. I'm eating dinner with my family, and I get the notification. I look at it, and they're like, "Okay, we're ready." And I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me? They want me to burn the midnight oil to get something done and ready for them by 8 a.m. the next morning." And I was like, "No, that's not happening." What's that old adage? A lack of preparation on your behalf does not constitute an emergency on mine, right? And so I told them, and I was like, "Hey, I was expecting this 2 weeks ago. I'm afraid it's a little late now. I'm happy to get this done for you and I'm like, be the hero, right? And save you so you're ready bright and early in the morning. However, at this point in time, my company policy is to charge rush fees, which is essentially time and a half." And he did not like that. He didn't like that at all. And I'm like, okay, well, to me, it looks like you have a couple of options here. Either you can pay me the rush fees, I get this done for you by 8 a.m. the next morning, or you can go find another copywriter this late in the game, right? What do you think he did, right? Of course, he paid me. However, I mean, it was just a huge lesson all the way around. And what I didn't mention is actually that Thursday, it was also a holiday. So when I said I'm having dinner with my family, it was my extended family, and it was a holiday. I'm like, you want me to work on something overnight? You want me to leave my family's holiday tradition here, and go cater to you because you couldn't get your stuff together 2 weeks before. Okay. Boundaries are very important. I had to train him on what was acceptable and what was not. Long story short, we don't work together anymore, but I am not crying about it. Quite honestly, there are plenty of other people out there who treat me well, and you can find the same. Just because you work for yourself doesn't mean that you're available 24/7. That's why it's super important to set those parameters and those office hours. Not only get you in the right mindset about that, but also your clients as well. If you ask for my assistance after hours, over a weekend, over a holiday, I'm going to charge extra. Okay. First of all, I might decline it altogether, but if I do take it on, I'm going to charge extra, and I am well within my given right to do so as a solopreneur, and so are you. Okay. So you establish these clear expectations and you set boundaries. Super, super important. You discuss things like what happens if you don't get paid on time or you don't get paid in full. You just have to train them. All right. Communicate as thoroughly as possible and get everything in writing. All right. Let me check the chat here. I see a couple of things here from Michael. Do tools like Grasshopper phone number allow us to set up auto reply for certain hours people call or text us? I'm not familiar with Grasshopper. That's interesting, Michael. I guess you could turn off your phone from getting through. Texting, I'm not sure how that, you could turn off notifications. And I think they might be able to get a notification back on that, like you've turned off notifications. I've worked with Google Voice before. Does anybody have anything else that they use besides Grasshopper or Google Voice?
So Julie, I was going to chime in on that. I use Sideline on my phone. It's like $49.99 a year or something like that. I don't even know. But it sets up that second number. It's just like calling. It comes directly into my phone. I don't know if I can set up an auto reply on that. I've not looked into it. But when you're looking at what you would want to research, how you would want to research that would be Googling business numbers that are on my phone that you can set up auto reply to. Typically, something like that is probably going to cost. You probably won't find a free version that allows you to do that. Maybe it's like an extra added feature or something like that. So you'll want to look at the different plans that they offer. If anybody does have any other ones, I'll type in what I use. But definitely throw them in there. The other thing that I use really well, and Julie, I love training your clients because this has been something that I have done so much, is I use Calendly.
Mm-hmm.
And I use the free version, and I can block off when I'm going to pick up my children from school. I block off every Monday to where people cannot schedule. And if people email me or text me or call me, I send them a thing that says, please just go onto my Calendly and schedule.
Perfect. Yeah,
I do not want to, but that does allow you to say, these are my working hours and this is when I'm available.
Yep.
And if I'm not available, you're not going to be able to get a hold of me on the phone, bottom line.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, that has been my biggest lifesaver. That is the best advice that you can give this group today is set that boundary and stick to it and train them. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for chiming in. I also use Acuity, which is very similar to Calendly, and do the same thing where I block off certain times. And it is super helpful, whether personal or professionally. It's come in handy. And also, because I'm so busy and my time is very important to me. And Mary, you even said that in my introduction, my time is very valuable. I even have something on my Acuity thing when they go to schedule that says no shows will be billed. And I've had a few people no show on me, and I've billed them, even for a free consultation. And believe it or not, they actually paid. So I was like, hey, there's something to this. So that's been really good. Love it. Keep the questions coming. Thank you for chiming in there with the answers there. The other thing that I've done, that client who was calling me at 10 o'clock at night, I ended up changing my voicemail and saying something, cheesy like, thank you for calling Julie Cortes, world headquarters located in sunny Overland Park, Kansas. My office hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you during those hours. Something like that. So I thought of having no shows pay, but worried about bad reviews. Yeah, I think maybe it just depends on who you are and what you do, what's your reputation already, if you're established or not. I feel like I'm at a point where I don't care anymore. Is that horrible? But my time is very, very valuable. In fact, one gal who no-showed on me twice actually came from New Zealand, of all places. I'm still not sure how she found me. And at the first one I let slide, she rescheduled. And then the second one, I'm like, I'm done. I sent the invoice and boom, she paid. I was like, great. So no harm, no foul there.
Go
ahead.
Because I think it's really important what you said. It depends on your business. Everybody can set up their own policy. That's the most important thing, is what works for you. Right. So for me, if I have a no-show, because typically I'm calling them, they are not calling me. If they do not answer, I know that potentially it's because they don't recognize my number, right? So the second thing I will do is I will send them a text that say, hey, this is Mary. We had a meeting scheduled at 12 o'clock. If you are able to call me within the next 15 minutes, feel free to do so, because then we'll have 15 minutes left to discuss. If not, you'll need to reschedule on my calendar.
Yep.
Bottom line. if they call me and it's 16 minutes after, I won't answer the phone.
Yeah.
They've missed that deadline. So it's
Same.
really personal to you and how you want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of being a solopreneur, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, to your question, I don't auto charge a credit card. So I sent an invoice and it allows them to pay via PayPal. And so she actually made the payment herself. So there was no question about it, no dispute whatsoever. How do you put together these policies? Yes, included in your contract, all of the things. We're going to get into policies later on, Sherry. So be looking for that. I do have some things in my contract. My policy about no-shows is on my scheduling calendar. So when they go to make the appointment, they'll see it, as well as it shows up in the confirmation email that they get. But getting everything in writing, I think, is super important. So yes, I'm a huge fan of contracts for sure. All right, let's keep going here. We've got a long workshop today, and I want to keep the energy going and get us to our break. Great, let's get us to our break. Okay, so we've trained yourself, we've trained your clients, and last but not least, you've got to train your friends and family. This is one aspect that I feel like often gets overlooked and gets missed, and that's a huge mistake because, again, while people may have good intentions, they still end up distracting us and taking away our focus from us to be the most productive that we can be. All right. Again, your kids, your spouse, your partner, your roommates, other family and friends, external, outside the house, all of them can keep you from achieving your dreams. So remember those office hours that you set for yourself and that you told your clients about? Now you're going to tell your family and friends. It sounds so silly, but it works. All right. You've got to share those office hours. Even like my husband and I both work from home. And so we kind of have this system. If the door is shut to each of our respective offices, don't come in and bother me. But you could put a Post-it note on the door, right? You could do one of those little do not disturb signs that you'd get at a hotel, something like that. There's so many different things that you can do to let them know. Now, if you have little ones at home, I understand that might be a little bit more of a challenge, or even sometimes our animals or pets don't understand what the door means or the sign on the door means. I get it, okay? But try as you might to communicate to people, hey, this is when mom is working or whomever, right? You know, please don't bother me for the next 2 hours, okay? Whatever it is, okay? So share those office hours with people. Ask them to leave you alone to let you focus during those hours. Again, this can go as far as text messages, social media messages, phone calls, even people who, again, mean well, but are taking away from your focus and productivity. People who are like, hey, let's count out of work early and go grab a margarita on a patio somewhere. Yes, that sounds delightful. And again, once in a blue moon, it's not going to hurt you, but don't get into a habit. Okay. I had one friend who was like, hey, every week, let's go. And I'm like, I got shit to do. So I had to like put parameters down, and I'm like, no, I would love to meet you, but let's meet after 5. Right. I can't cut out at 3 o'clock every week. I just can't. Okay. And that's a lot of drinking, and that's a lot of money, and that's a whole nother story. But people may mean well. You may have a friend who is going through a bad breakup right now, and they need to cry on your shoulder. Okay. If it's an emergency, if it's urgent, if it's a one-time thing, I get it. Don't make it a habit is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Play dates. Somebody says, let's go to the movies, anything like that. You've got to establish these boundaries. Okay. So important. Even like when you work from home, right? Your spouse, partner, roommates, whomever might be looking at you and saying, you work from home. You have a flexible schedule. You can get the laundry done. You can get the chores done, the cooking, the cleaning, errands, whatever. Yeah, I can. But if I want to get anywhere in my business, I'm not going to do it during those working hours. Okay. This is one reason why I left my ex-husband, just one of many. But he just did not simply understand that at all. And I'm like, I am not your housewife. Like, I'm here to work, right? And I'm happy to split the chores with you later, but it's not going to be during the workday. Okay. You've got to talk to people. You have to have those conversations. Gosh, one time, maybe 15 or so years ago, my mom, bless her heart, I don't know if anybody has a parent like this, but she was the type of person who would call me and like have me on the phone for an hour at a time. And really, we didn't talk about anything. It's like a Seinfeld episode, right? It was all about nothing. And I know she means well, but I just can't, again, I can't take that kind of time out of my schedule during the day. And she didn't understand that, and I would ask her, gosh, if I worked a full-time job, like at H&R Block or wherever, would you be doing the same thing? Well, no, probably not. Okay, so please don't do it now. Everything came to a head a few years back. Now, this is when I still had a home office landline, as well as cell phones had come out. We did have voicemail, and we did have caller ID at that point in time. Thank goodness. Because I kid you not, she called me 4 times in 2 minutes. Once on the home office line, and then on my cell phone. Second time on the home office line, and then on my cell phone, and did not leave a message. What do you think I'm thinking? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's an emergency. God forbid my dad had a heart attack or something, right? So at this point, I'm freaking out, because of course I'm ignoring her. It's my office hours, but now it's 4 times that she called. So I call right back right away. And I'm like, Mom, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, everything's fine. What are you doing? I was like, it's 2:00 on a Tuesday. I'm working. And she's like, well, drop what you're doing. Why, Mom? Why do I have to drop what I'm doing? Because there's a meat sale at Price Chopper. Really? Really? You want me to drop what I'm doing in the middle of my workday to go to the local grocery store for a meat sale? God love you. Again, she means well, but holy cow, do not interrupt me during the day for something like that. Now I know these days she's getting older, her memory's not so great, but all I ask is please just leave a freaking message. Let me know it's not an emergency. Either tell me what you want or tell me I can call you back later and it's okay. All right. So that was a huge thing, but we had to have pardon the expression, but we had to have a little come to Jesus meeting. I'm like, you cannot do that. You cannot disrupt me like that in the middle of the day and all for a meat sale. Okay. Boundaries, so important. Training your family and friends, so freaking important. Get inside your head. I'm not going to answer my phone between the hours, whatever your hours are, right? 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever it is. Schedule those phone calls, those chats, those outings, whether it's during lunch, before work, after work. Figure out times outside of work to do that. Act like you have a normal, traditional, full-time job, regular working hours. Because at the end of the day, you have to train people how to treat you. And they're going to continue to treat you however you allow them to do so. All right. So you train yourself first to say no, and then you train everybody else. Okay, now's a good time for the second poll here. If my lovely assistant Mary will come back up, we want to know what
Poll 2?
Poll 2.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We want to know, what areas do you need help with? Select whatever applies here.
All right, we'll keep this open for another 15 seconds. Got about half of people have participated. The other half of you awake? What you doing out there? I know it's like, this is the time where we need that extra cup of coffee.
Yes.
That after lunch moment, right?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and end the poll and share those results for you.
Survey says, all right, looks like the biggest thing is planning, business plan and marketing plan. And then we got setting up my business, paperwork. Oh, we're good. We're going to cover that today. Finding and keeping clients, processes and systems, time management, all good things. All righty. Well, thank you all for that feedback. Really appreciate it. Very, very helpful. So one last thing that I want to jump into before we get to our break, and then we're going to get into the real nitty gritty here, but I want to talk about policies. Okay. We've mentioned them before, but I really want to get into them. So the key is you do have to set up policies and procedures for your business. Okay. And you want to think of different scenarios as to how you'll handle these situations going forward. So you might think of like processes, of course, like if you get a new client, how do you onboard them? What does that look like? What does your process look like? Do you first do a discovery call, like a first meeting? Maybe it's a free consultation. Okay. Then let's say you're interested in the project, they're interested in using you. Then the next step, okay, what are your next steps? Discovery call, do an estimate. Okay, then you may have them fill out a contract. Then you may get a deposit from them. What does your onboarding process look like? What does your offboarding process look like? You've got to go through all of these steps to ensure that your business runs like a well-oiled machine. For example, think to yourself, what will you do or what do you do if you currently have your own business when you get a new client? Do you set up a new desktop folder for them? Do you have a physical folder that goes into, a filing cabinet? Do you assign a job number, a project number, a client number? Totally up to you and what your process looks like, okay, and how you run your business. Do you then add it to a project tracking software or spreadsheet? Do you have a CRM that you're using, client relations management system? What does that look like? All right, start thinking through these things to make sure that you know what to do when these things happen. We talked about payment policies. What do your policies look like? Do you ask for a deposit up front? Depending on what your business is, it may be customary to ask for a deposit up front. Is it 50%? Is it in thirds? Is it all up front? Is it all at the end? Something for you to decide, okay? You may just bill when the project is complete. Again, very different options for different businesses, okay, different industries. Figure out what the industry standard is and apply that to your business. Same thing for payment terms. If you're not selling a physical product and not getting payment like as soon as the person picks it up, like our muralist here on the call, right? You're probably going to get paid either all up front or maybe it's a 50-50, but they're going to have it. They're going to have to pay you right away. You're not going to be invoicing them, I would suspect, and saying, that I need my money here within 30 days. My industry says that it's a 30-day turnaround for payment. I think that's pretty standard, but you can do whatever seems right to you. Is it upon receipt? Is it within 15 days? Is it within 45 days? Whatever it is, just pick something, right? Make sure you have something. Thank you, Melissa. Upon receipt. I figured it'd be as much as something. Okay, so you've got these terms situated, right? Now, let's say you've got a client or a prospect who does the following. Maybe you give them that estimate and that contract and they don't sign it. Well, what do you do? Maybe they won't pay you a deposit up front and that goes against your core policy. What do you do? Right? There's so many different scenarios that you want to go through your head and make sure that you're prepared, because we all know, well, maybe you don't. It's one of those things you don't know until you're in it, right? You don't know what you don't know. But these things are going to happen. Okay, so you want to be prepared. What happens if they don't sign your estimate? Will you still take on the project? What happens if they don't sign your contract? Will you still take on the project? Before you say no, because I was you, I used to say, oh, absolutely not. If they don't sign my contract, if they don't pay me a deposit up front, we are not doing work together. But I've gotten to the point now where I turn around and instead of just walking away, I ask why. I ask the question why. Is it a matter of, oh, I work for big XYZ conglomerate and, we have our own attorneys on staff and our own contract. We want you to sign that one instead. Instead of signing yours, I might say, okay, well, let me take a look at it, ensure that it's a win-win situation here, or maybe I'll ask for negotiations with the contract and see if that's going to work out. If it's conversely, let's say it's a small mom and pop shop, or maybe it's a startup business that is struggling with their funding, and they say, okay, we signed your estimate, we signed your contract, but we're not paying your deposit. That's a huge red flag for me. Okay, I'm taking into consideration who the client is, what their situation is. And if they don't have the money to pay me the deposit, do I think they're going to have the money to pay me at the end? Probably not. So I tend to trust my gut in those situations, but start thinking through these different scenarios. Don't sign your estimate, don't sign your contract, won't pay a deposit up front, doesn't get you the necessary info or materials you need to get the project done to meet your deadline. Gee, we just heard about that scenario before, right? What if they keep adding all sorts of things to the project? Anybody heard of scope creep? Yeah, where all of a sudden the project changes and it's something completely different than what you initially estimated. If they keep calling or trying to schedule calls that are after hours or asking you to work after hours, overnight, over a weekend, over a holiday, what are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? What if they just start ghosting you? What if they stop communications all the time, right? Then what are you going to do? How are you going to handle that situation? Melissa says, I find that if I continue to run into this issue, I reevaluate my target market. Great perspective. Absolutely. Yes, good language to add. But start thinking about all of things. What happens if a client is late in paying you? They don't meet your 30-day turnaround. Then do you add a late fee? Yeah, absolutely. And if so, how much are you charging and how often? What if they don't end up paying at all? Maybe it's 8 months down the road and you still haven't been paid. What are you going to do? Do you turn it over to collections? Do you go to your attorney? Do you go to small claims court? Start thinking through all of these things. Expect scams. Yeah, all good conversations here going on. Okay, so think about, again, how are you going to deal with these issues? You want to have these policies and procedures figured out beforehand, if at all possible, okay? Because you never know when something like this is going to occur. So you want to be prepared. You want to have some sort of game plan, right? Know how you'll handle each and every one of these situations and what to do when they do happen. But write them out so you don't forget at all, okay? In addition, I've seen some people craft like what's called a working with me document or what to expect document. You can add it like as a back-end link on your website. You could send it as a PDF in an email. You could just send it as text in an email. You could have it as part of your contract or your statement of work. There's a variety of different things you can do here, but I feel like the more that you can have in writing, the better off you'll be. All right. So the next thing I want to do is we're going to do a quick little worksheet here. So let me stop sharing and pull up that worksheet for you all. And I am going to put this in the chat so you have your own version. Hang on, I got to move some screens here. Share screen and move that over. Okay, so hopefully you can see this on my end. And now I'm going to send you a PDF, and if you can't open the PDF, I'm also going to send over, because I think that happened last time, I'm going to send over just a screenshot of it. File is blocked for security reasons. Well, that's rude. Hopefully you can see. Let's try that again. Maybe I need to rename it. Let's try that.
It looks like the PDF is, if you click to download, it does allow you to do that and
Okay.
click open.
Okay, good.
Having issues, we will send this out in the post-webinar email as well. So you'll have it at that point as well.
Perfect. Well, I'll leave this up on my screen here, but I want y'all to take a few minutes to review this worksheet. Consider crafting your own policies that we've talked about just now. And while we do this, I think this is going to be a really good time to take a quick break. So go refill your coffee, your water, whatever it is you're drinking, go use the restroom, and we'll come back. What do you think, Mary, in 5 minutes?
Let's see what time we got. It's 2:15 and we've got till 5, 4. Right?
Till 4.
Till 4. So yeah, yep. I think 5 minutes is good. If we come back at, let's come back at 2:20. Well, let's do 2:20 right after 2:20 because it's 2:16 right now.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm going to leave this up. We'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm going to put that in the chat in case somebody stepped away. At 2:20. All right, is everybody back? All right, so somebody asked if we would be getting the recording, and yes, that will be coming out along with the handouts in the future. So yay, welcome back. All right, so hopefully everybody has had a chance to take a break, to take a look at this policy worksheet. So we are going to keep going. Welcome back, everyone. All right, let me get my screen back up and we'll get going. Hang on, there is a chat box in my way. All right. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I was going to put on, I had this cute little slide for our break. There it is. You get to see it for 2 seconds. Okay. So next up, we're going to dive into pricing, because I think that's a huge, huge thing for most people. And I know I saw it earlier when people are wondering, you know, what it is that they needed help with. So let's get into that. This is one of the questions that I get asked most often. Julie, how do I price myself, my services, my products, what have you? And quite honestly, I don't know. And to be quite honest, there is a method to my madness. I know you're supposed to say, but Julie, you're the expert. You're supposed to have all the answers. Yeah, I wish. But this is a really difficult question to answer. And the reason being is because there are so many variables that come into play. There really are. So let's say, just knowing my wheelhouse, let's say you're a graphic designer. Okay, great. So I want to know what it is you do. You're a graphic designer. I want to know how many years experience you have. I want to know how good you are at your craft. I want to know if you've won any awards. I want to know how busy you are. Are you in demand? Is your phone ringing off the hook? And then I also want to know like where you're living, because cost of living is huge and it plays into this whole formula, right? Now you can go online and you can find these cost of living worksheets. You can find these cost of doing business worksheets, and they all can help you come up with some sort of rate, whether it's an hourly rate or project rate or whatever the case may be. You can do that. You can go online, you can find a salary calculator. All you have to do is just Google salary calculator, right? And maybe put in what industry you're in or what your niche is. And that is an excellent place to start. But what I'm here to tell you is that it's only a starting point. It's not the end all be all for really determining what you ought to be charging. Your best piece of advice is going to be to find somebody who does something very, very similar to you or what you want to be doing, and find out what they charged when they were in your shoes, if they're willing to share. And I think most people are, provided that you're not going to be direct competition. Now, granted, if I'm talking about a graphic designer who's like right out of school and they go to talk to somebody who's got 20 years experience, that 20-year experienced person probably isn't going to care. That's not competition to them, right? So there's so many different variables that come into play here. That cost of living thing is huge, because are you living in Kansas City or New York City? Because cost of living is different, right? The people living in New York City, I don't know the statistics, but I'm sure they probably pay 10 times as much as we do just for their rent or their mortgage. So huge difference, and that's a huge factor right there. And you've got to take all of that into consideration. And if you're in huge demand, you're going to be able to command higher rates. So lots of different things to consider. It's basically like figuring out where you sit in the industry and in your location, and determine where you fit on that sliding scale. Okay, looking at other people and what they're charging. So, like I said, find a mentor and see what they charge when they were in your shoes. You can even go online. I know some places have, like, here's a listing of, you know, all the graphic design. Well, it's not all the graphic designers in the United States, but here's a bunch, right? And here you can see where they're coming from and what they charge. This person in Savannah, Georgia charges this. This person in Seattle charges this. Again, great place to start, but it doesn't take into account any of those factors that I mentioned before. How good are they? How many years experience do they have, et cetera, et cetera. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's one of those things where you just have to play with it to begin with. One thing I do know for sure, though, is that you've got to be confident enough to get paid what you're worth. to charge what you're worth. And I know that that is really, really different for everybody. And it's hard when you're first getting started. I totally understand. I've been there, done that. But you don't want to undercharge yourself. You don't want to devalue your profession. Okay, so keep that in mind. I know you might be just getting started. However, if you're coming out of the workforce and you were doing the same thing, but maybe for an employer, you still have the experience. Just because you weren't doing it for yourself doesn't mean you don't have the experience. All right, keep that in mind. You still know what you're doing when it comes to running that business and doing those products and services. Okay. A lot of people like to charge by the hour. Again, great place to start when you're first starting out, but I don't feel like that's the end all be all answer. I feel like that misses out of a lot of things. 1 million an hour. Yes. 1 million. You got to do that in the, why am I blanking on that? From the movie, right? Austin Powers, $1 million. But you're not just charging for your time. You're also charging for your talent, your experience, your skill, your expertise, right? All of these things come into play, okay? But you determine, are you charging hourly? Are you charging by the project? Are you charging by the day, by retainer, whatever it is that looks right for your business, for your industry, for your specialty. And then once you start figuring that out, you start testing your rates, okay? You start getting feedback on your rates after you start doing estimates or telling people what you charge. Here's the key. If you don't get any pushback at all, like ever, it's time to raise your rates, right? But conversely, if you're getting pushback all the time, you're probably charging too much. So it's time to lower your rates. I would say a good middle ground would be maybe 25% of the time of getting pushback on it. Okay, that's where you want to be. That's kind of the sweet spot. And don't be afraid to charge additional fees if they're applicable. For example, late fees or rush fees, like we talked about before. Okay, referral fees even are kind of a thing. Melissa says, do a lot of research. Yes, 100%. Excellent point, Melissa. I find too, like the more senior level I get in my craft, that people are comparing apples to oranges. You're welcome. People are comparing apples to oranges. Well, Julie, why would I pay you? I'm making up a number because I don't want you to know my rate. Why would I pay you $150 an hour when I can get the same thing from somebody right out of school who charges $25 an hour? Oh, honey, you're not getting the same thing. You're really comparing apples to oranges here. Quite honestly, quality is going to be better. I can probably get it done faster. You're probably going to get better results. Like, it is not the same thing. Okay, there's a huge educational factor there. And quite honestly, in my opinion, what difference does it make how much you charge by the hour? Doesn't the only thing that should matter be the end all be all price, that final figure on your estimate or on your invoice? That's all that should matter. Really? And why should you get punished for being able to have, say 30 years experience and being able to get things done quicker? You shouldn't. Okay. So you've got to take all of these things into consideration. You may even consider value. Like my graphic designer friends or illustrator friends, when they design a logo, sure, it may not take them as long as the client thinks it's going to take them, but the value of that logo is going to last them for years to come. A logo can essentially make or break a business. Okay. So you think about like the Nike logo, holy cow, that was done by a freelancer years ago. I don't remember the exact specifics, but let's say they only paid her like $125. $125 for the Nike logo. And look at that company to this day, right? Now, unfortunately, they've come back and they've made good on it, but wow. I mean, she definitely didn't charge her worth there and for the value of that piece. Okay. It wasn't just a one-time use piece. It went on and on and on. Yeah. Huge, huge. Anyway, so remember your work has value and you need to charge what you're worth. Don't just think about time, think about everything, the entire picture that comes into play. And then also don't forget to give yourself a raise every so often. I tend to do it every year is what I tend to do, is giving myself a raise. And also I do allow for some lenience here. Like, for example, when 9/11 hit, when COVID hit, like those years, I didn't give myself a raise because I just didn't feel right asking my clients to do the same. So just kind of keep that in mind, but still, you are your own boss. Maybe you give yourself a performance review and up your prices every so often with every year. Okay. So Once you figured out how you're going to charge or how much you're going to charge, then you're going to get into what's called an estimate or a proposal. I love this little graphic because you're not going to find all three in the middle, of course. So of course, putting together an estimate, totally going to look different for everybody, depending on what it is that you do, what industry you're in, what specialty you offer. This may be more for like a service-based business than a product-based business. So just kind of play along with me here and see what is applicable to you. And I understand it's going to be hard in the beginning because you might not know how long something's going to take you or what all to include in that estimate. It does definitely get easier with time and experience. I'll tell you that for sure. The one tip I can give you here is to be sure to include some sort of range. I wouldn't just give one number. For example, just for easy math, I wouldn't just say $500. Okay, I would say $500 to $800. I'd give some sort of range, especially with like a brand new client, because there's going to be some unknowns. There's going to be some variables. Maybe I'm figuring just 1 hour's worth of a meeting for this client, but they want to meet with me 3 different times. And I wasn't expecting that because they're a brand new client. Okay, so I want to have some wiggle room in my range. And also I like to bid that upper number. I like it to be a little bit high because more often than not, I can end up billing them somewhere in the hero because maybe they I just saved them $100.
Hey,
and now I'm the hero. Yes.
We sort of lost you there for a second. I don't know if it was just me, but you cut out on that last part. So you might want to repeat that.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. I got a notification on my end that my internet connection was unstable. But okay, so let's try that again.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Oh, technology. So when you're doing your estimate, make sure you do a range. I like to do a wide range, not too wide, but something that gives me some wiggle room because there's going to be some unknowns there. If it's a new client, they may want 3 different meetings when I'm just planning for 1 meeting, right? So you want to have some wiggle room. And I like to do the upper end of the estimate a little bit higher than I really think it's going to take because or what it's going to be, because that way I can come in under the budget and end up being the hero for the customer, for the client, right? Let's say it was $500 to $800. They've got $800 budgeted. I come in at $700. I've saved them $100 and now I'm a hero. Okay. It's just kind of something to show them that why they should come back, reasons to come back and work with you in the future. Okay. So let's get into the nitty gritty details. Oh, now I see. No, you cut out. Thanks. My boss would always say, set an expectations. Yes, increase, higher range, 100%. Okay, let's get into the details. If you've never done an estimate before, here are some things that I think ought to go on there. You want to make sure these things that are on here, on every single estimate that you do, things like your brand, for example, right? Your logo, your name, your contact information, basics such as that. Don't forget the date of issue that you send it over to your clients. Maybe you even put things in there like how long the estimate is good for, maybe, oh, this is good for up to 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years, whatever it is that you do, right? Excuse me. If you are charging hourly, don't just charge for do the writing, for example, or the design, whatever it is. Okay. You also want to figure in admin time. You want to figure in meetings. If you're traveling anywhere, you want to figure in all of those things, okay? You are allowed to charge for all of that. Concepting, brainstorming, research, right? All of those things ought to be applicable for your estimate. You may put in there things such as deadlines and deliverables, okay? You definitely want to have on there a signature line for your client to sign it, your prospective client, and the date of their signature, okay? Don't forget those things. Also consider something like giving them a heads up, an FYI of what the next steps are. So for example, for me, if they approve the estimate, then I'm going to send them my contract and request for a deposit, which that might be an invoice. Okay. So all of these things go on your estimate. Now, there are plenty of tools out there that you can use for estimates and invoices, which we'll talk about next, whether it's through an app or software or something like PayPal or QuickBooks or whatever. You can use all of these things. Just keep in mind, those templates may be missing some of these things. Okay, so you may have to go in and do them manually, but these are my best tips for estimates and invoices. Okay, so speaking of, let's move on to invoices, all the things. Your invoice may actually look very similar to your estimate, right? But again, you get to determine when you're going to bill. Like I do 50% upfront and 50% upon completion. Sometimes if the client ends up stretching the project and it goes for months on end, I may switch over to a monthly billing because that helps for cash flow on both sides, both my side and the client side. But I'll tell them that up front. And I'll let them know about the deposit. I'll let them know typically billing is upon completion of the project, or if I'm going to be doing milestone or monthly billing. Okay, you just want to make sure that you would say all of those things. Then getting into the details, very similar to your estimate, you want the basics to appear, right? Your brand, your contact information, date of issue. Definitely want to put that date of issue on there. In fact, you may even say when it's due. Instead of saying invoice due within 30 days, you may say invoice due, January 1st, whatever it is, just to make it easy for them and that there's no questions going forward. Make sure that you've got the amount due, of course. You can line item things. You don't necessarily have to. I will say my business, my industry, my expertise, 25 years of doing this, I usually don't line item things. And I've only had one client ever come back one time and ask me to line item things. Okay. So again, everybody's experience is different, but just something to consider when putting together your invoice. Definitely make sure you have on there how to pay you. So many people forget that very essential piece. Do they pay you through PayPal with a credit card? Can they send you a check in the mail? If so, who do they make the check out to? Where do they send it? Right? You have to just lead them along, grab their hand and lead them along as to how to pay you. Make it as easy as possible for them to ensure you get paid and get paid on time. Also be sure here to add in a policy of what happens if the payment is late. You may have already put that in your estimate or in your contract. I would additionally include it in the invoice just as a friendly reminder. For example, I charge 1.5% every 30 days. It's not a lot, but from what I understand, that is what I am legally entitled to charge in the states of Kansas and Missouri. Okay. 1.5% every 30 days, or it's 18% every year. That's my personal policy. Not everybody's going to pay it, but then you can make the decision whether or not you want to work with them again in the future. So it's just something to kind of encourage them to pay on time, right? Any questions on estimates or invoices before I move on here? Questions. All right. Well, y'all.
You know what? I'm going to hold on a second. I'm going to throw out a question, Julie. I am. So speaking of invoices, what platform do you use for invoicing? And what is a good, there's all kinds of different ones out there. What is it that you use?
Personally, I use a platform. They just changed their name. It was and.co. Was the website, and they got bought out by Fiverr of all things, which I'm not happy about. So it's Fiverr Workspace, but it's a free platform, and I use it. And what I really like about it, honestly, is it allows me to brand my invoice by way, not only just put my logo in there, but also just colors and fonts and whatnot. I really, really like that aspect about it. And everything's digital. I know a lot of people use QuickBooks self-employed. And I think even PayPal has invoicing options. So there's plenty that you can use there. What do you use, Mary?
I use Wave Accounting, and I really, really like it. I've used it for both this business, and then I also used it when I owned a landscaping and lawn care business with my ex. I don't know if I have as much freedom with the branding as you do. That's really interesting. Your branding is so super important to you. So it defines. So I totally get that. I'd love for you to put that in the chat box so that everybody can go to it. Wave Accounting is also a free online portal. They accept credit cards. I love that. Or you can have people, send you a check. But yeah, I'm a huge proponent of free invoicing and very streamlined invoicing systems. QuickBooks and I are not friends. So QuickBooks is the most common, but don't think that that's the only one out there. I'll put in mine, and then I'm not going to put in a link. I'm just going to put it in there. You're better than me for sure. Yeah, I think that's an important component to think about. Can you brand on it? Can you set up recurring invoices? How do you do that? What do you need? And that there are other options out there for everybody to utilize.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, speaking of brand, yeah, I'm huge on branding and promotions for sure. And I think y'all have seen my brand pretty clearly throughout this presentation, if not on my hair and in my background. It's super important. Of course, I come from the advertising marketing realm, but I feel like it has totally worked and helped with my business. So I want to jump into branding and promotions because as a solopreneur, you really do have to put yourself out there. And my question is, because I know some people are introverted or shy or just don't have the confidence to do something like that. But my question is how are people going to know about you or your business or your products or your services if you don't let them know, right? How will they know who you are? How will they refer you or buy from you? You've got to let them know. Okay, so we're going to talk about branding and promotions, and we're going to start with your brand. Common misperception. Your logo is not your brand. So often I ask people, what is a brand? And they're, oh, your logo. It's so much more than that. It is, yes, your logo, your company name, your colors, your fonts, your theme, your tagline, your voice. It's all of those things combined, but really what's at the heart of it is how people feel about you, your products, your services, your company when you're not around. It's your reputation. It's your image. Okay, that is what your brand is. And I want to ensure that you all develop or redevelop a really strong brand going forward because, again, that can help make or break your business. Remember Nike logo, make or break it. Okay, so let's, what is this headshots?
So I love, this is one of my favorite things is branding because Julie and I are probably the most unique branders, but it's one of the reasons that we went into entrepreneurship, right? So I threw up my headshot as well. So you guys can see that branding, totally different. My shirt says Wicked Good. I'm wearing my Chuck Taylors, which you can't see, but branding is more. I love it. Yeah, Julia, it's I love that branding is about just, who are you?
Yes. And how do people feel about you? Yep.
They feel I'm wicked good, Julie. That's what they feel.
Well, they feel like I'm badass. So
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, Melissa chimed in here. A really good book to read is Building Story Brand. Absolutely. I actually just bought that. That is going to be my new read come January 1st. I got to finish my old book first. But yeah, I've heard some great things, and I'm really excited to dive into that, especially as a copywriter. I think that's only going to help me move further along. Is branding also what your company does? Yes, that is part of it. Absolutely. I work again more on the writing side of things and the visual side of things. So I help come up with taglines, your brand voice, your mission statement, your vision. I would come up with sample messaging. All of that is part of the branding package. I would work in tandem with a graphic designer and they would do the visuals. Lots of questions coming in the door. Mary, if you can follow those, maybe you can answer those while I am continuing on.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I want to make sure we are being cognizant of everybody's time here, including mine. Okay. So your logo is not your brand. Your brand is how people feel about you when you're not in the room. So I want you to go and get branded. How are you going to determine your brand? Okay. So you're going to create your brand, right? And there are certain things that you can do to get to that point. All right. Number one is to study your company. Selling something similar, who's in the same market, who like literally is your competition. Don't look at bigger companies because they're not your competition. Look at other self-employed individuals. That's going to be your prime competition. And do they even compare? Are they light years ahead? Are they way behind? Like find people who are on the same playing level, and that's going to be your competition. Okay. Figure that out, study your competition, and then look at them, look at what they're offering, look at how they're promoting themselves, how they're marketing themselves, how they're branding themselves, and then determine how you're different. Right? This is what we in the marketing biz call a USP. It's a unique selling proposition, or you might hear it as unique selling point. Essentially, your USP is your differentiator. It's fancy marketing speak. All right, it's your differentiator. What makes you different and better than your competition? Why should a prospective client buy from you as opposed to them? Okay, that's what you've got to figure out. And quite honestly, we can go into some deep dive exercises here, but really the key is just to think of something that nobody else can claim and get so specific that it's not generic. For example, I'll use this example I do with my clients, right? And I'll say, okay, what's your USP? And they come back and be like, oh, we have the best customer service. I'm like, okay, any Joe Schmo off the street in any industry can say that you have the best customer service, or they have the best customer service. Really, what makes you unique? And so we'll do this. Down the street does this, and Betty Joe does that, or whatever, you know? And so we really hope, sorry, it looks like my internet connection is still unstable. Grr. But you really have to hone in. So finally, we'll get to the heart of the matter and learn that the client will say, oh, well, we have a call center. We have people answering our phones 24/7. I'm like, boom. Does anybody else in this area do that? Nope. Ding, 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 ding. That's it. That you want to highlight, shine a light on it. Make sure you exhibit that in everything you do, from your brandings to your self-promotions, okay? So figure out your USP. Anybody want to take a gander as to what my USP is? Mary, I bet you could get it.
To get what? What could I get?
What's my USP? What makes me different than everybody else?
Oh my gosh.
What?
I know. It's the same thing as me. We're so similar. You know what it is. This is why we bond. This is our bonding moment right here. I love it when you call me out for our bonding moment.
I love it. I love it. So my USP is my personality. All right. Now, yes, everybody has a personality, but nobody has my personality. I know that I am energetic and passionate and fun. And I try and have that shown in everything that I do. Clients know, or prospective clients know, that when they're going to work with me, we're going to have fun. We're going to have a good time. Okay, that's my USP. So now I want to challenge you to come up with your own. Okay, again, it's one thing and one thing only. Okay, girls got personality. Thank you. Chef's kiss. One thing only that nobody else can claim. Okay, it may be your style. It may be a certain medium that you work in. It just, whatever it is, dig deep, that something nobody else can claim. That's your USP. Okay, once you've got that figured out, then you want to determine your target audience. Who is it that you're selling to, or who you want to sell to? Now, again, when you first start out, you may be like, anybody and everybody who will buy my products and services. Yes. However, start honing in. Again, who is your target audience? If I were to say, gosh, when I first got out on my own and I was looking around and I wanted to work with the ad agencies, okay, that I knew ad agencies, okay, but who, the people inside of the ad agencies, who's going to be hiring me? Well, most likely it's going to be a creative director, or a marketing manager, a talent manager, maybe even an HR person. Okay, then I start looking at those individuals. Okay, 20 some odd years ago, it used to be that more often than not, the creative directors were all middle-aged white men. Okay, things are changing, which is great, but it was what it was. Okay, so then I start doing these deep dives on my target audience. Okay, what are their demographics? What are their psychographics? And I really start figuring out who they are and what's going to resonate with them, what's going to convince them to buy from me. Okay, there's a lot of psychology that goes into it. It's really fascinating, honestly. Once you figure out your brand, you want to share it everywhere in everything you do. Of course, you'll want it on a business card. You'll want it on your website. You'll want it in an email signature, right? You'll want it on your social media pages. Oh, speaking of email, don't forget, because I see this more often than not, like don't have joeschmo@yahoo.com or the worst, AOL.com, even gmail.com. Like you're not doing yourself any favors. Apparently everybody's Joe Schmo today. But you're not doing yourself any favors. If you don't have a website just yet, go ahead and park a domain and get something so you can have that back end of your email address be congruent with what your website is. Okay, copydiva@juliecortes.com, right? You want to have it be branded. That's a great, easy place to brand, as well as show professionalism and that you mean business. Okay. If doing this branding or any of the promotions we're about to talk about here, if that's not in your wheelhouse, if you are not a designer, an illustrator, a writer, what have you, please, 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 for the love of all things purple, find somebody who does do that. Okay. Be very cognizant of your strengths and your weaknesses and surround yourself with smart people. Okay. And work with a professional to develop your brand. You may go on and do all sorts of other things. Think about anywhere and everywhere where you could show your brand. You might have seen my cup that I've been drinking out of, right? You might have seen the wall behind me, or I've got a sign up here. You might have seen my hair. It's got the purple in it. I don't know if you can see in the light. It's got the purple in it at the bottom. Okay. You could have a laptop case. You could have your laptop bag. Could be a specific color. Could be your glasses. It could be your shoes, whatever the case may be. You don't have to go above and beyond like I do, but I will tell you, people remember me. Okay. And they remember my brand. And anywhere that you could just kind of sneak it in, I feel like the better. You may have a branded pin or a coaster, or even I'm trying to look what's around me here. So even like my little pad folio that I would take to a client meeting is purple, right? What can you do to bring that consistency to the table to help people remember you? Okay. All sorts of different things. All right. Once you have your brand figured out, then of course you want to start promoting. And there are so many opportunities for you to promote yourself. This is just a starter list to start getting things moving in your head here. Start getting, get the wheels turning, right? Just had a company design your logo, $60. That is a steal. Yeah. Oftentimes, using certain things like Fiverr or platforms like Upwork or whatever, they're fine. However, I often find that you get what you're paying for. It's often, from a freelancer's perspective, it's a race to the bottom. I feel like it really devalues the profession because the clientele that get on there are really looking for the cheapest price possible and not really worried about quality. Just something to talk about. We'll get into that a little bit later, and I'll give you a great resource to find local talent, to shop local and keep things local. Okay, so when you get into promoting, you could start with simple advertising and marketing. Again, depending on who you are, what you do, what industry you're in, where your target audience is, your budget, right? All of this is going to come into play. So when I talk about, hold on, y'all are distracting me in the chat. Your last share about laptop case has me thinking, sure, whatever it is, or maybe you have a couple of primary colors and then some accent colors, whatever you want to do. Okay, I would say, quite honestly, having a website or some sort of online presence in today's day and world is an absolute must, my personal humble opinion. I feel like those who don't have anything like that don't show credibility, and it makes me really question their credibility, right? It really makes me question their credibility, their reputation. So even if you don't have a full website just yet, even get a landing page, right? You want to reserve that domain so you can have it for your email address, and you can even have coming soon. Maybe you got your logo on there and then an email address, whatever, just something. So you can get going on that. Okay. Excuse me. You could get into things like print advertising. When I say print, I mean newspaper, ads, you could certainly do that. You could get into things like direct mail, where you are mailing directly to people, using the post office, whether it's a postcard or a letter or some sort of mailer. You could do traditional email advertising, email campaigns, newsletters. I will say, people don't like to do email for whatever reason, because probably most people will tend to go towards social media because it's easy and it's free. I will say, though, that email is king right now. It's got a much higher conversion rate than social media does. If you think about it, with social media, you're kind of spouting out to the world, right? There's a lot of people who are following you who may be friends, family, prospects, clients, what have you. And who knows with the algorithms if people are even going to see your messages or how often they're going to see them. With email, if you've developed a list, those people want to be on your list. Those people want to hear from you. Like, those are the people who are going to be more likely to buy from you. Okay. So don't discount email marketing. I feel like it's huge, and it's something that not a lot of people are using right now, and they really ought to be. Okay. Again, depending on who you are and what you do, you could look into TV commercials and radio spots. You could do videos. Video's huge right now on all sorts of platforms. You can even put video in your email or on your website if you wanted to. Flyers, posters, all of the above. Can you mass email? You've got to have a list of some sort, and you have to have people's permission to email, because you don't want to be spamming, and there are laws that you could break, so you don't want to do that. So you start developing a list for email. What are your thoughts about lead generator companies like Thumbtack, Angie's? Yeah, I think it's hit or miss, quite honestly. I personally like to do my own lead generation. I feel like it's a little bit more personable. I don't think Angie's is really, I haven't looked into it much. I never really thought that platform was right for me. Thumbtack, I've heard good things about. I think it's just kind of play with it, see what works for you. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to be different.
And Julie, follow up on that with our landscaping lawn care company. Thumbtack was great. For what I do now, I wouldn't have any need for it. So I think that play around with it, try it out, especially if it's a free kind of thing. I would not pay for anything until you've tried it.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to address the can we mass email?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you've got to be really careful. Yeah, you've got to be careful with that. You've got to have a list established, and you have to get people's permission to email them. If you use a company like MailChimp or HubSpot, they have this auto-generated template where at the bottom it has like the legalese that you need on every single email that basically says, if you don't want to receive these emails anymore, you can unsubscribe. And then they have the verbiage about the, I think it's like anti-can spam law, something like that, that you have to abide by.
And I would follow up on, like, don't purchase lists from anywhere. Generate your own if you're going to do a mass email.
I know. Thanks for joining us, Melissa. Glad you could join. Okay, so there's plenty of things you could do. You could exhibit in trade shows. There's lots of different things. Of course, you can get into social media and PR, and I want to have those as two separate slides because I feel like they're huge and great opportunities here. So I'm going to dive into social media here. I would get it. Like, even if you have, let's say you have a profile on Twitter, which who even knows if that's going to be around tomorrow? That's a whole other subject for another time. But let's say you set something up on Twitter and you haven't used it in 3 years. Well, gosh, if you're not using it, take it down. Don't like set it and forget it. Like, you really need to be active on social media. Like, that's the whole thing. And I much rather you have an active profile than just being on a profile and not doing anything with it. Okay. So you've got to be present. You've got to be active. And you can use various platforms to do this. There are so many out there. You don't have to be on them all. Okay. I feel like it's too much. There's no way, unless you are a big company, a big brand, and you've got somebody working for you who does social media. I don't see any reason for you to be on every single one. Find the ones that you like. Find the ones where your prospective customers are on. That's where you want to spend the most time. All right. So of course, you've got your main ones. You've got LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, even Snapchat, TikTok, right? The list goes on and on and on. Yes. So there's plenty of options out there. Which ones are right? Okay. Whatever you do, you want to make sure that your brand is prominently displayed on each and every platform. Now I'm going to show you some examples here. And you'll have to, let's see, I got to stop my share a different screen. Hang on, bear with me. We're going to walk through, but I'm going to show you how you can use the different platforms to show your brand. So here's my LinkedIn page, right? And you can tell I've got a branded cover image here. Now I just got new headshots since I chopped my hair off. And so those new updated ones will be coming here soon. But you'll see, I've got a little blurb here. All of this is consistent in everything I do. Okay, so this is my LinkedIn page. I do highly recommend setting up a business page, right? This is going to take me below, but then I can go and click on this and go to my business page. And then you can brand this one as well. Two reasons why I like having a separate business page, one of which is it allows you to actually put your logo in that experience avatar section. Otherwise you get a generic, I think it's like a grayish blue rectangle thing that LinkedIn gives you. This gives you an opportunity to brand it back on your personal profile. And secondly, you can also start creating a more customized audience here. People who are not just randos, but people who are actually interested in what you want to say. Third reason being, I would say too, because again, with the algorithms, we don't know who's seeing what, when, where, how, why, right? So this gives you an added touch point to try and get your message across to your customers. All right. Now let's see if I can take you on a tour with me. Here we are this is my Facebook business page. Okay. All looks familiar, right? All looks very, very similar everywhere you go. I would say be very careful when you're creating these images because they are different sizes on every platform. And you want to make sure that yours are created in the correct size so it doesn't come up as too small or too blurry or whatever the case may be. But look at what happens when we go now to Twitter, right? Look at this branding all across the board. Everything looks very similar. Now, Instagram doesn't necessarily give you, or at all, give you a cover photo, which is unfortunate. But I still have my headshot here that's similar. And then I've used my highlight covers branded in my colors, right? My covers branded in my colors. See if I can get that across 3 times fast. Okay. The branding is very much there all throughout everything I do, okay? And you can do the same thing. Even my YouTube page is branded, okay? So take advantage of all of these opportunities to be consistent across the board. I feel like sometimes it's awkward to do social media for my field of work. That's just you. That's just you. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, I totally understand. But I would hire somebody who is comfortable because this is an easy and free way to get the word out about what your business is and what you do. Okay. Something else to notice when you're looking through these is look at the URL on all of these. I have Freelance Rockstar on every one. Well, they don't let you do it on a company page. Let me go back to my personal. But everyone is branded. My handle is the same across the board. If you can get that as well, I would highly recommend having that consistency. This is what I'm talking about here. If you have a company page, it allows you to auto-populate by connecting to it and being able to bring in your logo there. Otherwise, LinkedIn gives you just this random generic image, which isn't flattering and isn't doing anybody any favors. Okay, so just make sure everything's consistent. I feel like when we go to use social media, let me go back and share my other screen. Again, people like to just set it and forget it. And again, it's not doing you any favors. Now, there are certain rules of social media, right? Like when's the best time to post and how often do I need to be posting and blah, 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 blah. And that changes on the daily because here we are, social media world. It really does. The algorithms are really picky. I will say that Facebook business pages are kind of a pay to play. kind of thing. They don't like to share your stuff with people unless there's a ton of engagement on it, or you're throwing a few bucks at it every time. Oh yes, Score's social media ones, especially the ones taught by Kimberly Beer, which I've been to, are fantastic. If you want to go to some of those workshops or webinars, they're fantastic. But be in the mindset that social media isn't just about posting, it's about developing relationships. All right. So you've got to engage as much as you're posting. So go and like other people's stuff, comment on their stuff, share their stuff. Okay. Start developing relationships. Maybe you set aside 10 minutes a day to do that, because engagement is really the key here. Okay. You don't just have to, post random things. You can post pictures, you can post GIFs, you can post videos, you can write certain commentary. So many things you can do. Now, if you do want to throw a few bucks at it every here and there on different platforms, you certainly can. Like Facebook, you can sponsor a post for like $5 and it will like double your reach of getting in front of people. It's amazing. And you can either have them select the target audience, or you can select it yourself. There's really some great opportunities there. And of course, if you want to throw more money at it, you're going to be seen by more people, which is great. Okay, so other questions on social media or comments?
So Michael posted, if we're at the point of naming a company and see that one or two hobbyists took the Twitter, Facebook, or other platform social media handle of the company name, would you make it consistent with something like .com or one.com? Not as good as the one without the number or before or after, but is consistency more important? Or take the great original name on half of the platforms and add a number, letter, or phrase on the other half?
This is a great question. I think consistency is more important. I've seen some people like add KC, right? Like Kansas City. I really like the consistency aspect, just because it's easier. Like on my business card, I have at Freelance Rockstar, and that's it. I don't even have to name the different platforms. Like people can just go and look it up. And I feel like it's better for branding too. Now I'll tell you one issue that I had, because I just rebranded a couple of years ago, and then I finally updated my social media handles, because before I was just a copywriter, right? But now I'm a coach and teacher and speaker and whatever. I do all of the things. Excuse me. So I rebranded to Freelance Rockstar from KC Copy Diva. Somebody had Copy Diva before me, so I had to add that KC for Kansas City. Before, was using that on all of my platforms. And then I was like, okay, time to rebrand. Freelance Rockstar was available on all of them, except for I couldn't get it on Twitter. And the reason why wasn't because somebody else already had it. It's because it is one character too long, and they won't allow it. Oh, it burns my soul. And quite honestly, Twitter's not really my favorite platform anymore, not because of what's going on. I don't think it's as user-friendly. I think it's more fun on Instagram. But I keep it, quite honestly, because I have a pretty decent following. And surprisingly enough, I think I have more followers on Twitter than I do any other platform. And as a speaker, when I go to apply for speaking gigs, oftentimes they want to know what your follower counts are. So that's kind of why I keep it. And I'm not too active on it, but I'll post on there every so often. I'll go and engage real quick and then jump back off. So, but consistency, I would say consistency is key for social media. Okay, moving right along. Any other questions on social media? Anybody want to see anything else on my pages or whatnot? Setting up your LinkedIn profile is super important. And again, that's like a whole nother webinar. But there's so many great opportunities on there. I would just dig in, start playing around, and fill out absolutely every single thing that you possibly can. Plus, LinkedIn likes really filled out profiles, and they're more likely to show your page to others, like people you might know or whatever, super helpful there. Okay, moving right along. So, we talked about social media. Now I want to talk about PR. I think somebody made this comment earlier about volunteering. Absolutely. Volunteering and networking have really made my business since day one, because business is a lot about who you know, and people like to work with those whom they know, like, and trust. And I feel like by volunteering and by networking, you get to become that person, right? People are rubbing elbows with you now. And you may be rubbing elbows with some movers and shakers. If you're volunteering, people like to work with those who are philanthropic. They feel like you've got a good heart. And if you're putting good energy out into the universe, you're going to get good energy back in return. So there's a lot of different things that you can do when it comes to these things. We're going to jump into networking a little bit later, but from a PR perspective, you could do things like public speaking. Everybody see what I'm doing right now, right? You could teach workshops. You could do your own webinars. You could get interviewed on TV, on the radio, on podcasts. You could host your own podcast if you should be so inclined. You could enter award shows or contests, and then bam, if you win, send out press releases to the media in hopes that they pick up the story and cover that. Put it in the newspaper or on their website or whatever the case may be. You could write articles, you could write blogs, right? Position yourself as an expert or an authority in the field. You could get referrals or testimonials from people and then use them. That's a little concept that we like to talk about called social proof. And I know, actually, I mentioned Kimberly Beers, another SCORE presenter. She actually has given a presentation, I don't know for SCORE, but she's talked before about social proof. And essentially the concept is what other people are saying about you. If they say good things about you, then, oh, it must be true, right? So you get these testimonials, you get these referrals, and you share them with the world. You ask for them on your LinkedIn page. You ask for them on your Facebook business page. You put them on your website. You share them in your emails. You share them in your social media. And you know, years ago, I used to be like, meh, does anybody even care about referrals or testimonials like that? Like, because of course you're going to ask the people who love you, right? It seems a little biased, but the more I get into it, the more I understand. People would be like, oh, Mary recommends Julie. I love Mary. I totally trust her opinion. Sure, yes, absolutely. I'm going to go with this person because Mary likes that person, right? Okay, so social proof is really, really helpful. And I highly encourage you to use it if and where possible. All right. How would you ask for a testimonial on LinkedIn or a business page? So what I like to do is when I'm done with a project, if a client comes back to me and says, thanks so much, Julie, this was fan-freaking-tastic, I'll ask right away. Okay. And I'll send them a link. Hey, would you do me the favor of giving me a review or testimonial? Here's the link to LinkedIn. Here's the link to Facebook to do it. I make it super easy for them, but do it right then and there. As soon as you can remember, I feel like that's when you're going to get the best response, and they're even more likely to do it. Okay. Now, let's say it's a little bit down the ways and you're like, oh, I'm developing my website. It would be really great to get this testimonial from Mary, right? We're going to use her as our example. But I haven't talked to her in a couple months. Reach out. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. Again, more often than not, people are happy to do it. And sometimes they may even want you to write it for them, quite honestly. It's like you're ghostwriting and just slap their name on it, but make sure they approve it before you put their name on it and put it out into the public. But yeah, I think it's pretty simple. Just do it right away if you can. Okay.
And Julie, I want to point out, so after you and I did our first webinar together and worked together, you emailed me directly and said, hey, I would love to get a recommendation from you. And I was like, girl, yes. And I think I had so much fun writing your recommendation that I sent you. It was just like, she's a freelance badass rock star, you know, really I never would have given it to you if you had not asked for it. So it was that ask component, and you and I had been communicating via email, so that's how you asked for it. So I think that that's an important component. If you're communicating with somebody mainly via LinkedIn or via social media or via email, utilize that resource to maintain that line of communication. Because if you'd have reached out to me LinkedIn, I probably wouldn't have seen it for forever, because that's not where I'm communicating all the time. So but yeah, you have, the ask is the most important thing.
Right. Thank you. I think too, Michael, to your point, yeah, not being afraid to ask, the more you do it, the easier it gets, right? At the end of the day, it's nothing personal. It's just business. If they, for whatever reason, if they say no, Okay, nobody else needs to know that. I can't imagine they would say no. If anything, they might just ghost you and not answer you. Maybe they're busy. I mean, we don't even know what their reasons are, you know. Maybe they have COVID, God forbid. I don't know. And they're lying in a hospital. Like, circle back around, see if you can get a hold of them. But the ones who are readily there saying, thank you so much, this was excellent, those are the ones that you want to go after, because they're going to be the easy asks, right? And more often than not, you'll get their testimonial from them. Okay, so you can do all of those things. You can volunteer. Like I said, my career is built on volunteering, serving on boards, serving on committees, even just being an active member of a professional organization, really helps with your image, with your brand image, your brand reputation. And again, you might be rubbing elbows with other movers and shakers. Once people know who you are and they know what your work ethic is, they're more likely to refer you to other people. And it doesn't even have to be volunteering for a professional organization. You might have a charity or a cause that's really near and dear to your heart that you want to volunteer for. Go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. You know, you might meet some really great people there too. So again, one of those things to consider as part of your marketing plan is to add in these different options that I'm giving you today. Now, again, I encourage you, if this is not in your wheelhouse, if social media is not in your wheelhouse, or website design or development, or designing a logo or an ad, or writing anything, highly recommend that you find a professional to work with. Do not do it yourself. There's nothing worse than seeing a bad brand or bad advertising and marketing. You're not doing yourself any favors if you've got that. And I know it's difficult when you first get started, because you're like, how do I have any money, right? I don't have any money coming in the door. How am I going to pay for something like that? But really, you've got to invest in yourself. It's one of those things. I learned the hard way myself, right? I was where many of you are today. How do I spend this money when I'm not making any money? But you've got to find the money. I'm telling you, you've got to find it, whether you pick up a part-time job in the meantime, or you start saving and budgeting for it. This is one of those things that you really have to spend money to make money. And you want to put out your best impression, right? Through your brand and through your promotions. That's what people are going to see. So when you're looking for somebody, whether it's a graphic designer, a writer, a photographer, whatever the case may be, of course, you want to look at their portfolio samples. Don't just use somebody's recommendation, because, you know, maybe your next door neighbor says, oh, you know, my teenage son can do this for you. Okay, look at their work first, right? Make sure that they have quality talent. Make sure they know what they're doing. Interview them like you would for any other job, okay? But really take the opportunity to get to know them, and not just view their work, but talk to them as well. I've come across some people who are super, super talented, but they are not nice at all. And I don't want to work with somebody like that, right? And all of these things are very integral into that client-vendor relationship, and you want to make sure that the person is easy to get along with, okay? So you could go on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you could say, I need a graphic designer, or whomever. Who do you know? I see this all the time, and lo and behold, either nobody answers, there's like crickets, right? Or you get 101 different answers. Well, how do you choose? How do you freaking choose? There's so many, okay? And then there are people out there who are like, gosh, for lack of a better term, they're frauds. Oh, I'm a brand expert. I'm a design expert. And then you go and you look at their web pages or their social media pages, hint, homework to do, and they're nothing of the sort, okay? So you really got to take some time and effort to do this, but it doesn't have to be so difficult, okay? Just look for consistency, make sure their actions match their words. And if you need a free resource to do just that, I'm going to share with you this little organization, not so little organization, that I founded here in Kansas City. And it is a free resource to the community that we offer, so you can go and find talent. Let me put the website here in the chat. Trying to pick it up without actually clicking on it here. So you can go easily search. Like I said, it's free, no strings attached. You go to the website here. You can click on portfolios. You can click on need talent. There's a drop-down menu. What is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for a logo designer, a graphic designer, a copywriter, If they're in advertising and marketing, PR, social media, they're probably part of our organization. We have almost 200 members in the club. And you can view their website, their portfolio samples on our site. You can go to their LinkedIn profiles. You can read their bios, see their resume if they have that up there, and their contact information is right there. So we take our hands out of the entire process. You can contact them directly, set up your own interview, you can hire them, whatever the case may be. We just like to offer this as a free and easy to use resource for the community to help the local economy, right? That whole shop local, buy local concept. Again, I highly encourage you to find someone who fits your style. Do a little bit of research behind the scenes to make sure that you are set up for success going forward. Interview them to ensure that your personalities and working styles fit. Make sure they have the time and the capacity to take on your project. And if you're out there and you're listening to me and you're like, well, wait a second, I'm self-employed in the advertising marketing industry and I work near or in the Kansas City area, by all means, come join us, right? And then you too can have your profile on our website. We get a ton of traffic there. So it's a really great opportunity to find work. Okay, moving right along. That's for anything like visual or written. But we talked about networking briefly, and I want to dive into that because again, networking is huge. And I feel like there's a lot of opportunities here. So what is networking? Networking is the exchange of ideas with like-minded people. And again, people like to work with those whom they know, like, and trust. So you want to become that person. You want to become top of mind to people. So let's do a quick brainstorming session, audience participation time. Where might you go to network? Where might you go to find people who could give you work, who could buy from you, or who could be referral partners? What ideas do you have? Let's put them in the chat. Make sure you're still awake. Industry associations, abso-freaking-lutely. Where else? Chamber, that was next on my list. Yes, chambers of commerce. And there are chambers all over. Of course, the greater Kansas City has a chapter, but then so do the different suburbs around town as well. And there may be, I know a lot of you come from a little bit further away, suburbs and cities. I'm sure there are chambers in your neck of the woods as well, unless you're in a much smaller town. Chambers are great. Professional organizations are great. What about even like groups online? Could you network in groups on Facebook and LinkedIn? Absolutely. Or Reddit or what have you. Forums are great. Community events are great. Yes. Community networking groups. There are tons out there. You just have to find the ones that are right for you, whether it's the time and place that they meet, the people who go, whatever the case may be. And just remember too, it's not just a numbers game. It's not how many people you can meet. It's the quality of the connections that you can make. Okay. So meetup groups. Yes. Perfect. Meetup. And then even like Eventbrite too, I would say would be along that same vein. Excellent. Yeah. Church or any sort of religious affiliation, anything, even if you happen to be like involved in like a sports team, right? Maybe you play recreational volleyball or kickball or something, right? You could go network there. Co-working spaces. Yes, absolutely. Lots of opportunities. All right. So let's, yeah, go ahead.
Because this is actually one of my like big platforms too, is that all of them are not equal. And you have to find the one that works for you. I get a lot of people who I've met through networking and I'm like, hey, are you still a member of that networking group? And they say, no, I wasn't really getting the business that I wanted out of it. But now I've actually moved to this other networking group and I've literally paid for my dues. And for all the years I was in the other networking group, plus this one times 2. In the first 3 months. It's finding the right spot and then looking for places that are PTA, churches, where are you normally at that you're promoting your brand. Julie's people are going to talk to her about that pink hair wherever she's at. and she's consistently networking. I guarantee you. In the produce aisle at Walmart, I bet this woman is networking. I guarantee it. I run into people at Sam's Club all the time. So think about what works best for you, where you already are, and how to integrate that. But know that Chamber of Commerce may not be the best place for you, the typical one, but maybe the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce there in Kansas City is, or the African American Chamber of Commerce. There's all kinds of different, even within those realms, Rotary clubs, Sertomas, Kiwanis. If you're volunteering, you're networking.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points, Mary. Really appreciate you chiming in there. And I can't say I'm at the produce aisle at Walmart, but I mean, to your point, like I never leave home without my business card. I just don't. I met a gal walking out of Jazzercise one day. She looked at my license plate, which is branded, and was like, "Oh, are you a copywriter?" And I was like, "Oh, you know what that is, right?" And we just hit it off, right? It was amazing. So yes, I have my business cards on me everywhere I go, and you just never know when the opportunity is going to strike. Michael, to your point, yeah, I agree. It's interesting. I look online and it looks like these events are really popular and busy and whatnot. And then I'll go to some of them and it's like, oh, no, it's not the attendance that we once had. So I'm seeing it too. It's not just you. And I think everybody wishes COVID was behind us already. That would be nice. Whole another topic for another time. Anyway, let's keep moving on here. Let's say you're ready to go. You've got some networking events that you've got lined up. You've got them on your calendar. Okay. So when you do that, I want you all to be prepared. Now I'm going to get cheesy on you for just a minute, but I want you to be prepared and take with you what I like to call a networking toolkit. Okay. Now what's in this toolkit? Number one, of course, is your business cards. Okay. Do not leave home ever without it. I can't even tell you. And I know coming out of the pandemic, it's been a little wonky, but I can't tell you how many people I've run into lately are like, oh no, I don't have my cards on me. I forgot them. Don't forget them. Like always have them on you. And even if you, like if you typically carry them in your wallet, maybe you have a stash in your car where you could run out and go get them. I always have backup. Okay. So take them wherever you go. Take your business cards with you. Have you tried putting the stick-ons on your car to advertise your business? I have not. I know people who have. My license plate says Copy Diva, and then I've got a frame that says Freelance Rockstar on it. I used to have my website on it, but quite honestly, I'm kind of an aggressive driver, and I don't want people to be able to track me down. Is that horrible? But yeah, I see car wraps, I see stickers or magnets, I see them all the time. I think it depends on who you are and what you do and what you're comfortable with. Quite honestly. So yeah, something to consider for sure. Okay, back to the toolkit. Business cards, number one. Number two is your elevator speech. And we are going to get into that in a little bit about what all goes into your elevator speech. But essentially, it's a 30-second speech that you can give describing what you do. Okay. Number three that goes in your toolkit. I warned you, this is going to be cheesy. Number three is a firm handshake. Not too firm. You don't want to like break the other person's hand, but not too weak either. I've had those and those are really awkward, right? So a nice firm handshake. Eye contact, so important. I know it's hard for those who are introverted or shy. Practice, practice, practice. Look right here. Look above the person's eyes if possible. I've heard that or in between the eyes, look at the nose. I think that's a little too obvious. I've heard that tip before too. But again, I feel like the more you do it, the easier it gets. Okay. Also, what number am I? 1, 2, 3, 4, eye contact. Number 5 is a smile. Okay. You'd be surprised if you come in with a scowl on your face, people are going to feel that energy. Okay. So even if you have to turn off that scowl for just the hour that you're there, do it. Okay. Put on a smile because now you're in networking mode. And then last but not least, in your networking toolkit, something to bring along with you that I think most people forget is a mint, gum or a mint. Because how often do we go to a coffee meetup or we go to lunch or we go to happy hour and it's got appetizers that have onions or garlic or whatever in there. I remember still to this day, I was at some coffee meetup, didn't have any mints on me. And I was like, oh, I had the worst coffee breath. Well, what happens? Then you're like hiding. You don't want anybody to talk to you, right? Because you don't want to talk back and have your breath be shared, right? right? So carry Mansur gum with you every time you go to some sort of networking event. Trust me, you're going to come back and thank me someday for that little cheesy tip that I gave you, that minty tip. How's that? Okay. Also, think about your outlook. Like I said, you may walk in the door with a scowl on your face. Maybe something nasty happened at work or in your personal life or whatever. Leave it at the door. I cannot impress upon you that enough. Leave it at the door. Or maybe you're like, oh, I hate networking. I don't want to go. Okay. Well, I mean, don't, if it's that horrible. You really want to have a positive outlook. I am so pumped. I'm excited. Now, for me, it's a little easier because I am probably 100% extrovert. And I go in, I'm like, yeah, it's a party. I get to make new friends. Like, I don't even think of it as work, right? So it's like that mindset shift. I'm like, oh, I get to write my drinks off, on my taxes. That's amazing. For happy hour, all the things. Think about your body language too. Okay, if you stand there with your arms crossed, what does that tell people? It seems like you're a little standoffish. Now, I understand sometimes we get cold and we cross our arms because we're cold. But I would tell you, if you find yourself in that situation, I don't know if you can see me. Let me back up a little bit. Just kind of rub your arm a little bit. Okay, let people know you're not offended. You're not put off by what they're saying. You're just cold. Okay, but think about your body language. Think about where your hands are placed. Okay, if both of your hands are in your pockets or behind you, that's a little bit hard for people to shake your hand. Okay, you want to seem like you're approachable and open to conversation. So be very mindful about these things. Make sure you're making eye contact with people, smiling at people, because if you're standing there in the corner by yourself with your arms crossed, ain't nobody going to talk to you, right? Nobody going to talk to you. So are you asking me a question, Mary? It feels like I'm bothering people.
So somebody put earlier when we were doing the what kind of things do you need help with polling question, this was actually one of the others that someone had posted. And so I wanted to bring it back for a second because you're literally covering this right now, mindset, and how to overcome that. So just throwing it back up there.
Thank you. Yeah, mindset is huge, huge. And it took me a while to get through it too. But now that I've learned some of these tricks, like it totally is a game changer, 100% game changer. Like I said, positive outlook is super helpful. Making goals for yourself when you go to these networking events. So let's say you're an extrovert. It's not necessarily a numbers game. You don't want to walk home with 50 cards, but maybe you get five good quality contacts, and that's going to be your goal for going in the door. Now, let's say you're a little bit introverted. You don't have to put that kind of pressure on yourself. Maybe it's 2 or 3. Okay. If the event is 2 hours long, if you're like me, you're probably staying 3 hours. But if you're introverted and something like this really drains your batteries, you don't have to stay the entire time. Like, allow yourself that. Just give yourself that allowance, And you can even like step away for a little bit to recharge your batteries. You go to the bar, go to the restroom, go to your car, whatever it is, that's going to help you with that. Okay. I feel like you also have to go into this with this mindset of not necessarily like, I'm here to get clients, but I'm here to serve other people. I'm here to be a benefit of service to other people. Because oftentimes I feel like people will come up to me like, here's my card, Julie, buy it for me. And I'm like, but, as the consumer, it's like, well, what's in it for me? Right? You got to remember all of that. So if you take this position, this mindset that you're there to help other people, I think we're going to all be better off, right? Let's say you're talking to somebody and it turns out that they are no way, no how your target audience. Okay. That's okay. You can still make a quality connection there. Maybe they need somebody who you can refer to them. Maybe it's something as simple as, hey, I'm new to town. Do you happen to know of a good local dentist? Right? Think about ways that you can help them to be of service. If you are going someplace where you've never been before, or if you're on the quieter side, it doesn't hurt to take a networking buddy with you. I love this trick, quite honestly. I have some friends who are really good at sales and really good at asking the good questions where I kind of stand back and just kind of listen first, but I have friends who are there, and it's handy. It's really handy. And like, we'll go to these, like Chamber of Commerce has like a top 100 small business showcase. I love going to this, but it's super intimidating to go around and talk to all 100 booths, right? So we kind of divide and conquer, and then we meet back in the middle, like every 15 minutes. Oh, well, I talked to this person, you should go there, whatever. And it's a referral system. Having that networking buddy, it's nice to have. Maybe somebody who isn't necessarily your competition, maybe they're in a related industry, but maybe they can spur conversations that can help you too. So don't discount that. When you get cards from people, when you exchange details with people, don't just bring your cards home and make a pile on your desk. Like, how many people do that? I'm guilty as well. But the thing we've got to remember is that's not going to do us any good. We have to follow up with those people, even if it's just a simple reaching out on LinkedIn and connecting. Okay, follow up with them on LinkedIn. Send a note with your connection request. And, hey, it was great to meet you at XYZ networking event. I'd love to stay connected, or I'd love to follow up on our conversation, or let's continue the conversation. How about we go out for coffee, my treat? Okay, whatever the case may be, you can connect on LinkedIn. You can send them an email. You can follow them on social media, provided that they have public profiles and they allow that. Just stay connected. Maybe if they've given you permission, you can add them to your email list, right? Think about all of the ways that you can stay in contact with this person. Maybe it's after you've already connected on LinkedIn, maybe it's 3 months down the road and you happen to come across some article that you think this individual would really find intriguing or insightful. So you send it to them. Right? It's a great way to stay connected, quite honestly. Taking them for coffee, that goes into the bucket of relationship marketing. Okay, again, people want to work with those who they know, like, and trust. I cannot say that enough. I would say blue in the face, but purple's my color, purple in the face. Okay, take people to lunch, take them for coffee, take them for after hours, even if you want to meet virtually, right? You can meet online now. I think a lot of people have no issues meeting online. I saw somebody say the other day that they were so thrilled. They had planned to do a happy hour with somebody on Zoom, and their counterpart sent them a bottle of wine to be prepared for the happy hour. I was like, how cute is that? What a great way to be memorable, right? And still make that connection and have a good networking event. So yes, networking is huge. And I feel like part of the equation, part of your toolkit definitely includes your elevator speech. So we're going to talk about how to create one, because not everybody has one. And it's more than just an I help statement. I hear this all the time. Oh, I help so-and-so do so and such, true such and such. Okay, great place to start, but that sure isn't going to get you your 30 seconds. Okay. The elevator speech is you're supposed to think you're in an elevator with somebody and what you might say to somebody in the time it takes you to get from one floor to the next. Anywhere between 30 and 60 seconds, okay? It's essentially a brief commercial about yourself, and it's really a simple yet powerful tool. And it doesn't have to be memorized, but know it well enough that you know your stuff, right? You know that if somebody were to ask you, what do you do? You'll be able to answer, okay? So we're going to craft one today. If you don't have one already, or if you do have one, maybe you want to refine it a little bit. But here are the elements that you want to have that go into your elevator speech. Okay, feel free to screenshot this screen here. Number one is some sort of attention grabbing hook. What's going to get their attention? Have them pay attention. It's more than I'm just a graphic designer. Okay, get their attention. Hang on, I got a question coming in. How do you say on opposition? Interesting question. I don't personally have an issue with opposite gender. That's interesting, Michael. And everything I've seen you ask or say in the chat today doesn't give me a weird impression about you, I would tell you.
Michael, I have heard this. I've heard this from some males, that it is more challenging to reach out to a female afterwards, and some females who have at some points felt uncomfortable with a male reaching out. I think it's more about how you build that relationship at the event and maybe you don't send a follow-up after the first time meeting them. If you know you're going to see them at additional events, just continue. Hey, you know what? After the second or third, hey, you know what? We should go grab coffee and talk about. I want to learn more about your business. I think I have some clients that I might be able to refer to you. It's really more about let me learn more about your business, and very much so keeping out of that, hey, I think we would get along great, let's, you know, or we would be good referral partners. I want to learn more about your business. And if they don't respond, don't take it personally. That's not a good referral for you at that point. Or you may build that relationship down the road. I think that women do tend to be more guarded, especially if they're in a male-dominated field, and if they're introverted or shy, or if they've had past bad experiences. There are women like Julie and I who are like, hell yeah, let's go get coffee. Like, we're not ever, like, even if you tried, it wouldn't matter because we are outspoken and forceful women, and we're not scared to be like, back off, buddy. But not all women have that same personality. So it's going to be different with every person you meet. But just go with the flow.
Yeah, I think that's a great concept, and great response. Thank you, Michael, for asking that question. You know, I started to think, and Mary's right. Like, I'm not afraid to go have coffee with a gentleman, you know, and my husband isn't the jealous type by any stretch of the imagination. And of course I tell him, like, just for safety reasons, here's where I'm going with whom, you know, where, whatever, and at what time. But there have been some times where I've been out networking and I can tell, like, the person has ulterior motives. Like, they'll look to see if I'm wearing a wedding ring, you know, or they just kind of look at me in that way. And it's like, okay, that's definitely not a person I want to be alone with. I think maybe hopping on a Zoom call is probably less intimidating than being in person. Or maybe you could say, how about we get a group together to go for coffee? Maybe that would be better too. But yeah, maybe just taking some time and easing into it, I think would be good. No need to apologize.
I like that Zoom call idea. I really do. I do a lot of Zooms where you can build because you have that face to face, but you're still in your own safety area.
Yeah.
And then Sherry brought up the other aspect of that, being ignored in a group of men in networking events and how to deal with that, because it runs the gamut both ways. Do you have tips on how to deal with that?
I think exuding confidence is really important. You know, Mary, to your point of being outspoken and whatnot, I think that's helpful. And of course, not everybody's like that. Sherry, maybe something you can do, and maybe you are already, is, you know, to help with that confidence aspect, to help command respect, is to dress the part. You know, I basically don't go anywhere for work anymore without a blazer on. And I don't have to. My field is very, very casual. We see people in t-shirt and jeans all the time, but I want to command that respect. And I feel like that comes as even more of a challenge as a woman. Again, most of these people in the t-shirt and jeans are male. But I feel like just that added additional element helps. Plus, it gives me a boost of confidence, because when you look good, you feel good, right? And if you're like, hey, I feel pretty powerful today, then that's going to come across in the way you handle yourself when you're dealing with them.
And I think that that's an important point, Julie, how you feel comfortable and powerful. You said something earlier that I think is a good idea on this, is bring a wingman.
Yeah. Or
so
a woman.
if you have a good friend in your field who is a male, have them, who would be really comfortable in those events, have them go with you to those events and introduce you. Physically introduce you to other people, and have them do that elevator speech for you. Hey, Julie here is a copywriter diva. She's a complete badass. Like, you two need to talk because you complement each other. Like, find that wingman that can help there too. And Julie, I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to throw in your wingman there and let you go in.
Thank you. All right, let's keep going here. We are running out of time, so I'm going to zoom through the rest of this here. I'm going to put these points in the chat. Feel free to grab them, because I do want you all to take the time to start working on your own elevator speeches here. All right. For example, with the attention grabbing hook, I like to say, hi, I'm Julie Cortes, copywriter by day, freelance rock star by night. right? I don't just jump into here's what I do, here's who I do it for, I then expand upon it. And then at the end of the day, these last couple of bullet points that you see here, we talked about USP. You all know what that is now, unique selling proposition or unique selling point. It's your differentiator. Make sure you highlight that in your elevator speech, and be sure to definitely state some sort of CTA, which is a call to action. What do you want to happen next? Now, if you just met somebody and you were the first one to share your elevator speech, of course, the most natural dynamic here would be to say, okay, enough about me. What about you? Tell me about what you do, right? And to throw it back at them. But if you find yourself at a point where you're like, oh, this would be a really good time to ask for their business card, then that could be a call to action. It could be, if you happen to know of anybody who could use my services, please let me know, right? Think of some sort of call to action at the end of your elevator speech. Now, again, we don't have time to do that now because we've had some great conversations today, but please take these bullet points with you and work on your own. Remember, this should be 30 to 60 seconds. And if you want to try with a word count, 150 to 250 words. You can count words in using Microsoft Word. I'm sure there are other applications as well. And be sure to time yourself, practice it. You don't have to know your elevator speech by heart, but it does help if you know it well enough that you can customize it for each situation that you're in. Oh, Sherry, I think I would punch somebody. I feel for you.
You might want to read that out loud, but so that people understand, because that went just to us. So, yeah, and you just told I would punch someone. So Sherry, synthesis, I've been told a woman should be at home taking care of kids. She's an engineer in the construction world. So that is why Julie would punch someone in the face.
Thank you for explaining.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of where that comment came from. Yes. All right. And this other question from Gary says, I believe that's Gary or Jerry, maybe. Can you give a quick example of that last point?
Yeah, so like I said, you could say something like, if you happen to know of anyone who could use my services, please let me know. Okay, so you're asking them to do something. It's a call to action. Or it may be, hey, it sounds like, we've got some things in common here. What do you think about exchanging business cards? So something like that. Okay, let's keep it moving here. So I just want to implore upon you all that working it for yourself does not mean you have to go at it alone. And I saw this earlier actually in Mary's presentation. So this works well with going along with SCORE. But really, I would say, as a self-employed individual, a solopreneur, again, surround yourself with all of the resources that you can, get educated, get the support that you need, and it does exist. Continue to level up, continue to take courses, continue going to SCORE webinars, consider hiring a business coach, read all the books, participate in all the forums, go to conferences and conventions and whatever the case may be. You really have to be willing to invest in yourself and in your business, because that's how you're going to be able to find success. All right. Now, as a token of my appreciation of you being here today and sticking through all of these 3 hours, I would like to offer you a free PDF download. If you want reminders of what we talked about today, if you want some extra motivation, inspiration, etc., you can simply zoom in on the QR code, or you can go to this link. I'm going to put it in the chat for you so it's easy to get to. And you can get my 7 tips to rock your freelance biz, or you can call it solopreneur biz, whatever you remember. It is what it is. Call it whatever it is. Your self-employed biz. And you can get that today. Get all the secrets to getting ahead as a solopreneur. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I am happy to serve the community as a local resource on self-employment. Again, I don't have all the answers, but I have a lot of experience. And if I don't have the answers, I can certainly try and direct you to resources that would have the answers, such as SCORE. Okay, moving right along. In summary, putting a business together and running it as a solopreneur can indeed be intimidating if you don't know what you're doing. So I would like to remind you to be bold and get to know your stuff. get educated, learn everything that there is to learn, and then get into the right mindset. Treat your business like a business and not like a hobby. Remember to be bold and put yourself out there when it comes to branding and promotions. Create a stellar brand and promote yourself wisely. All right. Secondly, I would like you to go on and be brave. Take that chance and just go for it when it comes to running your own business. So many people think to themselves, but what if I fail? But how are you going to know if you don't even try? So what if you fail? At least you can say you tried. Like, how many people don't even try, right? It's so much more than so many others can say. So be brave, change your mindset, flip the narrative, and think to yourself, not what if I fail, but what if I succeed? All right. Last but not least, I'm sure you figured out what it's going to be. Be badass. Take advantage of all the networking opportunities that come your way. Get motivated and stay motivated. And remember that mindset is everything. So you want to go on, you want to be badass, you want to be optimistic, you want to visualize success. You want to use the tips shared today to set yourself up for success. So go after your dreams with full intention and rock your solo business. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate you being on the call. I appreciate those of you who have stuck with it for all 3 hours here. If there's anything that I can do to help you in your solopreneur journey, please let me know. Feel free to reach out. You can find me on my website at juliecortes.com, Cortes with an S at the end. Follow me on social media. Remember, Freelance Rockstar. I'm constantly sharing tips on self-employment. And yeah, if you have any other questions, just let me know.
We're getting tons of thank yous coming in for you. As well deserved. Thank you so much for donating your time and your expertise. I get so many questions on the things that you've covered on just how do I actually do this? How do I actually create a brand? How do I find networking? How do I be comfortable? Like what is these little parts about freelance or, you know, the real freelance community and how to do it correctly, that we think about them maybe in segments, but not as it's the whole picture. And I love this webinar because it is the whole picture. It's not just one thing that you need to think about. You need to think about your policies. You need to think about your invoicing. You need to think about networking and branding and PR and just like, oh, they say we make an awesome team. I think we do. We're so similar. Thank you. Thank you.
Coming back, hard hands.
Can't do a good heart hand, but yeah.